Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting adventure. Today, Audio Novel presents Unlimited Blind Box at HxH by Zero Stolen Dream Zero. And if you're looking for more amazing stories, don't forget to check out my Patreon page. Your support helps turn incredible tales like this one into fully immersive audiobooks. Join me on this journey, and together, we can bring more stories to life. Thank you for being part of the adventure. Let's begin. Chapter 101, Shock the Whole Audience. What is the so-called owing favors? What is the so-called paying the bills? To put it bluntly, isn't it that all relationships are settled with this meal? Does it also include everything that happened in the alley just now? Biscuit took out the gold coin that Lon gave her and placed it on the table. But it's also good this way. She tiptoed and jumped out. If you get involved with a troublesome guy and can't get rid of him, it will be a headache. But I have always been the one who abandoned others, and no one has ever abandoned me. The two of you in front, stop right there. Biscuit trotted all the way to catch on Lon and Bahara's backs. Thunder Drill Pterosaur is a very dangerous monster. Named after thunder, it appears in thunderstorm clouds and is extremely difficult to capture. Because the Thunder Drill Pterosaur lives in thunderstorm clouds, its muscles become very hard after the initiation of lightning. On the way to the coast, Bahara explained it in detail to Lon. The sky had darkened at this time, and dark clouds gathered as if covered by a thick black curtain. The rumbling sound of thunder and lightning was deafening, almost piercing everyone's eardrums. But due to the special structure of the Thunder Drill Pterosaur's body, the lightning energy of the initiation will be concentrated in two parts after traveling throughout the entire body. Biscuit followed beside him to prevent the surrounding puddles from splashing on her clothes. It's the forehead meat and Adam's apple, right? Lon confirmed, in other words, except for these two places, there is nothing else valuable on the Thunder Drill Pterosaur, right? That can't be said. Bahara thought for a while. Some of its meat and skeleton, as well as a pair of wings, are willing to be purchased and analyzed by many collectors and biologists. Biscuit added, but the market in this area is basically saturated. Lon nodded and had a definite idea in his mind about how to capture this Thunder Drill Pterosaur. Snap! Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the entire sky with a white expanse. It was like countless white whips waving in the air at the same time. The cliffs on the coast were already raining and windy, and many hunters were already waiting in formation on the surrounding beaches, carrying various equipment and tools. They were all extremely focused while waiting for the prey in the sky to appear. Ah! A sharp cry suddenly penetrated the clouds and reached everyone's ears. It's coming. Many hunters were alert and stared at the clouds without blinking. Gyo covered their eyes early, trying to find the direction where the Thunder Drill Pterosaur appeared. There are even hunters who are very alert and release N to feel the movement of the Thunder Drill Pterosaur. N allows the aura to expand outward with itself as the center of the circle and can detect intruders within the range. Should we prepare too? Seeing this, Bahara was also ready to release his N but was stopped by Lon. No need to bother. Lon looked at the thick black thunderstorm. Even if the naked eye can't see the hidden Thunder Drill Pterosaur, Kamizenryu's unique perception of aura lets him clearly know where the prey is. As long as he captures its movements, it will not escape his palm. Aren't you always curious about what Arcane Senryu martial arts is like? Lon suddenly turned his head and smiled at Biscuit beside him. Then now, I'll let you see it. After saying that, he slowly started to move. Bahara and Biscuit were also alerted immediately after hearing this. While retreating to make enough space for the maneuver, they carefully observed Lan's movements. Then they saw Lan's foot move backward, and his hands were placed in a strange posture at his waist. Came. At this moment, under his calm voice, a vast amount of aura began to flow through his body, and even his muscles swelled up. Such aura. Not only Bahara but also Biscuit was shocked. He can burst out with such a vast amount of aura, is it his Nen ability? She did not dare to relax at all, and she watched Lan's movements closely, fearing that she would miss a key point. Hamiha. Endless blue light flashed on Lan's body, and then all turned into a point and gathered in Lan's calyx-shaped hands placed on his waist. Instantly, a blue ball of light suddenly condensed in Lan's hands, emitting a dazzling white light. Wave. As the last word was shouted, Lon instantly released the energy condensed in his hands violently towards the sky. A huge blue-white energy light wave rushed straight into the sky, like a meteor that cut through the sky, piercing through the clouds. Boom. The thick thunderstorm was all dispersed at this moment, and the obscured sky was almost split in two by this blue-white light wave. It seemed that even the world in front of them was torn apart. At this moment, everything was eclipsed by the impact of this huge light wave. Even the many hunters who had gathered below and were ready to hunt and fight were all staring at this scene with dull eyes. On the cliff, looking at this shocking scene, Bahara was stunned and dumbfounded. After such a long time together, this was the first time he saw Lon show such a powerful side. Biscuit's eyes were already wide open, and seeing this technique with her own eyes, the shock in her heart could not be described in words. Emissions type. Relying on so many years of experience and training, she murmured her judgment. Well, this kind of technique move is indeed very similar to emissions type. But based on Biscuit's ups and downs over the past few decades. She started learning Nen at the age of 17, and it has been more than 30 years so far. She has never seen anyone who can practice emission type to this extent. Is this? Came Senryu. At this moment, she also had an indelible impression of such a school. Lon exhaled slightly, and the surging aura on his body dissipated instantly and returned to normal in an instant. Done. He looked at the people who had not yet recovered and said with a smile. Bahara looked at him with a confused look on his face. Then, he suddenly realized that something was falling from the sky and subconsciously raised his hand. Snap. Then he grabbed something firmly in his hand. Chapter 102, Thunder Drill Pterosaur is in hand. What is this? A huge bird head was held in Bahara's hand. The long beak, the uneven head, especially the part on the top of the head, and the protruding red forehead flesh were particularly obvious. Is it the Thunder Drill Pterosaur's head? Bahara blurted out. He would never forget the red forehead meat. Did you leave the whole head? Biscuit stared at the head in front of her and the protruding neck. And the Adam's apple, is it also preserved? As for the rest of the body? Biscuit looked at the part below the neck. It's as if it was completely destroyed by some powerful force. Was it penetrated by the move just now? Such destructive power and control. Biscuit's eyelids twitch. She had no doubt that the so-called Kamehameha wave just now hit her, she would definitely not be able to take it. As for dodging, Biscuit always felt that this move was controllable. Even if she could dodge to the side, Lon could continue to control it to change direction to continue attacking her. But in this way, the purpose of our trip has been achieved. Lon also looked at the head of Thunder Drill Pterosaur with interest. Except for the red forehead meat on the head, the rest is no different from the appearance of ordinary pterosaurs. I can't see any consumption at all. Does he still have a lot of Nen to spare? Biscuit silently observed Lan's state, it's as if he was not affected by the huge technique just now. In theory, releasing such a vast amount of Nen to produce powerful moves, the consumption is definitely not small. But this man. Biscuit once again confirmed Lan's strength and terror. What was that just now? Many hunters who came to their senses near the beach below were also in an uproar. I don't know, I just saw such a huge beam. Are you sure it's an aura beam? The beam is as thick as a pillar, you tell me it's an aura beam. Otherwise, tell me what it is. No, I don't believe it, how could someone make such a powerful aura beam? Stop arguing. What I'm more concerned about is what that aura beam is for. It seems to be shot into the clouds. Could it be that? Look for it quickly, is there any trace of the Thunder Drill Pterosaur? Whole body strength on the index finger, and use the hardened finger to release a blow in a flash. The fingertips have the attack power of bullets and can easily penetrate the human body. These two moves represent both Phaeton and Franklin's abilities. Phaeton's speed is one of the best in the Phantom Troupe, so Shave represents speed. As for Franklin, his Nen ability is called Double Machine Gun, which is simply too close to finger gun. Fortunately, it wasn't Iron Body that came out. It's not without reason that masters all die from Iron Body. After Lon had a brief understanding of these two techniques, let's give it a try. He closed his eyes lightly, and the next second. Whoosh! Lan's figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. It was as if he disappeared out of thin air. At the place where he stood, there was only a little insignificant dust and smoke, representing the traces of where he had just stood. The periphery of Meteor City was an endless wilderness of hills. It seemed to separate the civilization outside from the abandoned garbage inside, forming a clear boundary line. And outside the wilderness hills, there is a jungle that blocks out the sun. In the past, this area was deserted except for garbage trucks and mafias going to Meteor City. But recently, because a lost explorer discovered a tomb of an ancient kingdom, this place has become unusually lively. According to history, the ruler of that ancient kingdom was honored as the pharaoh. When buried, they were solemnly buried with the most precious crowns and clothes in the entire kingdom. After being excavated, many ruins hunters who heard about it were all eager to try. However, before the ruins hunters could use their own tomb-digging skills, a sensation occurred at the scene. A fierce guy in sportswear and without eyebrows raised his arms and smashed the tomb open. He took away all the pharaoh's clothes buried inside. Many ruins hunters who heard the news also rushed after him immediately. Originally, they thought that with so many people surrounding and approaching, they would definitely take down the daring guy. But what they didn't expect was that the guy without eyebrows seemed unexpectedly tricky. Hula, hula, hula. Under a huge and thick towering tree, a group of ruins hunters surrounded a figure below and made strange shouts. "Run again, you bastard, run again. You can't run now, we've blocked you, huh? If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the crown and pharaoh's clothes." Wait, if I'm not mistaken, that bastard seems to have put on the pharaoh's clothes. Huh. A bunch of ruins hunters surrounded the culprit in anger and denounced him. But basically, it was just thunder and rain, and no one was stupid enough to go forward and fight the guy without eyebrows. For the first battle, there are so many ruins hunters here, all with the same goal. No one wants to be the first to stand out and be the last to benefit. However, as they got louder and louder, the more noisy the voices were. "It's so noisy." The ferocious man without eyebrows who was surrounded below suddenly shouted loudly. "I say, you idiots, did you make a mistake?" Wearing the pharaoh's clothes, his ferocious eyes full of bloodlust were revealed under his clothes. "I am not surrounded by you." Click. He clasped his hands together, making a crisp sound. "I surrounded all of you guys by myself." As soon as these words came out, the whole audience suddenly became quiet. Then, what is this guy talking about? Sure enough, he is an idiot. No wonder he wears the burial clothes of the dead directly. It seems that he also has intellectual disability. Isn't he too confident in his own strength? TSK, we were underestimated by this kind of rubbish. Many ruins hunters burst into laughter, thinking that the man who couldn't see the current situation clearly was really stupid. But this also made many ruins hunters understand. It turned out that he had a problem with his brain, so his idiotic behavior made sense. Some people even frowned and felt unhappy, thinking that they were completely underestimated by this kind of rubbish. "I can't stand this bastard being so arrogant." A man wrapped in black cloth made a sinister low voice, and the cloth wrapped around his body was infused with aura as it shot towards the man. He became the first guy to take action here. "Come on." The eyebrowless man saw this and not only did not dodge, but a cruel and hideous smile appeared on his face. At the same time, on a towering tree next to him. It's Black Silk, Vic Hill. He had purple middle-parted hair and two distinctive tufts of nose hair protruding from his nostrils. At first glance, he looked like a man-faced apes monster standing there. He commented on the guy who was doing the action below. He's a manipulator type. He can control the black cloth strips on his body to make various offensive and defensive measures. The best ability among them is binding. Once tied up by the cloth strips, it is difficult to break free. He was concentrating on analyzing there, and suddenly, a voice of emotion sounded beside him. "Is combat commentary popular in the wild now?" Just this sentence made the hunter's hair instantly stand on the end. Chapter 111 sentenced him to death after just one look. "When did you come to me?" In just a moment, the hunter was instantly wrapped in a layer of aura. At the same time, he immediately turned his body to face the direction of the sound with a mass of aura in his eyes as he used Gyo. Very good reaction. The young man in black clothes who suddenly appeared beside him gave him praise. "Who are you?" The ape-like man seemed calm on the surface but asked in a slightly serious tone. "Lon." The young man in black introduced himself. I am a bodyguard who's currently traveling outside. What about you? The ape-like men remained silent. Telling each other's names may also be a prerequisite for activating a certain ability. He often excavates and repairs ruins, so he is particularly wary of various sudden events. If one lacks a little caution and precaution, he may be entangled by the traps and strange abilities that suddenly appear in the ruins and lose his life. He has seen too many such situations. Therefore, he is full of vigilance against the man named Lon, who suddenly appears beside him. Don't want to tell me your name? That's okay. Lan's eyes moved downward again. I know your name is Saditz, a ruins hunter. Do you know me? Well, I heard that there is a ruins hunter who looks very similar to the man-faced apes in the Milsey wetlands. Now I have seen it up close, and I think it is true. Saditz fell silent again. He felt that this was not a good topic. Whether it was his personal emotional perception or the fact that the other party knew him so well, and he knew nothing about the other party. Wait, Lon. Saditz, who originally thought that this name was somewhat familiar, he suddenly had an impression in his mind. You are the candidate who beat up the examiner in this hunter exam, right? He blurted out, and the calm poker face finally changed. Has my reputation spread? Lon commented jokingly, and it sounds like it's all bad. Why would a person like you appear here? Saditz couldn't help asking. Just passing by, and then. Lon pointed down. I heard some movement here, so I came to see the excitement. It seems that it has reached a white-hot stage below. At this moment, after the vehicle took action below, the first shot of the battle had already been fired. The black cloth strips flying all over the sky looked very intimidating, and it seemed to have life as it kept moving towards the target. But it's just a show. Lon sentenced him to death after just one look. The foundation of Nen is too poor, and the activation of the cloth strips is too fancy, and there is no power at all. Not to mention wrapping up the enemy and tying him up, it is a blessing to be able to touch him. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the black cloth strips flying towards the eyebrowless man. What a rubbish! Accompanied by a roar, the iron fist was surging with a powerful aura. He held one in each hand and then pulled it hard. In an instant, the tattered pieces of cloth were scattered from the sky like a rain of flowers. My cloth strips. Vikhil was horrified. However, this was not the end. The shattering of the cloth strips was just a simple omen of a person. The next second, a tall figure suddenly appeared beside him. I said, stop making noise. The low voice filled with bloodlust instantly invaded Vikhil's brain. Before he could react. Crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking and shattering sounded, and the body wrapped in black cloth suddenly stiffened and then fell to the ground limply. TSK, I thought the head wrapped in cloth would feel like it would be broken. The fierce man, without eyebrows, spit out, the result is no different from others. Finx Magcub, member number 5 of the Phantom Troupe, is also a combatant of the troupe and is always the first to arrive at the battlefield. Sure enough, when it comes to killing, these experts are number 1. On the big tree next to him, Lon carefully observed Finx's every move. The action of breaking the head just now gave him some inspiration to exert force with his hands. Saditz, on the side, quietly distanced himself from Lon. After learning that this man had beaten up the hunter examiner, Saditz had already classified him as a dangerous person. After listening to his remarks, he felt that he needed to keep a certain distance from him. Swoosh. When Finx had just finished off Vikhil, the sound of an object breaking through the air sounded almost immediately. It's not just Gon who sneaks up on Hisoka, who knows how to stalk the cicada while the Oriole waits behind. This is Cannonball. With almost the same superfast dodging speed, Finx coordinated his body to dodge all the flying cannonballs one by one. While dodging the attack, he determined the incoming object. It's the enhancer type, steel cannon, Camelot. As long as he is hit by the cannon that is wrapped in aura, he will, Saditz analyzed subconsciously, but when he thought of Lon next to him, he immediately closed his mouth. Boom. The cannon that Finx dodged hit the tree trunk and exploded violently in an instant. The cannonball that fell to the ground, with the cannonball as the center, smashed a large, deep pit on the ground. Chapter 112, They are all a bunch of garbage. Yo. Will there be different effects when hitting plants in the ground? Finx was a little interested. Your ability is quite interesting, but it's just that the technique is a bit worse. Crack. Finx crushed the stone next to him casually and also poured aura to throw it before throwing it toward the opposite side. After not knowing what effect the opponent's cannonball would have on a human body, he chose to shoot cautiously from a distance. Although Finx sometimes loses his temper and is a dangerous person who gets angry at any time, he also has a calm side. The enchanter type in the Phantom Troupe is not the kind of brainless idiot. Finx's handling is correct, but obviously, Finx, who is surrounded, is a big fish in the eyes of others. They will not talk to him about the code of conduct. Finx, who had just thrown the stone, felt a gust of cold wind behind his head and dodged to the side decisively. A shovel flashing with cold light passed where Finx was standing just now. If it was 1 second late, his head might have exploded. Asshole. Staring at the guy who suddenly appeared and smelled like a mummy, a cold light suddenly flashed in Finx's eyes. It's the gravedigger, Garrus, a conjurer type. The shovel in his hand is very effective in fighting against the enemy or digging ruins. Saditz didn't say anything, and the information about these people automatically popped up in his mind. You can't hold it back, and you're going to attack one by one, right? Finx's head was already bulging with veins, and he couldn't bear it anymore, and his right arm started to rotate directly. But as his arms rotate, the soil under his feet suddenly softened, sinking his feet a little, and then it quickly solidified. After completing this series of actions almost instantly and imprisoning Finx, a short and fat figure emerged from the ground. Soil Rat, Zardal, a transmuter type, he can use his own aura to change the surrounding soil after diving underground, but after implementing the transformation, he must leave the area and run to the ground. Saditz perfectly explained the situation. He also found that his analysis seemed to be really suitable for explanation. Just the feet are trapped. Finx below also noticed the abnormality under him. But as long as the upper body can move, that's enough. Swinging one arm quickly in a clockwise direction, the aura in his fist increases with every rotation. Let's go together. The few ruins hunters who gradually realized that something was wrong immediately chose to attack. Swoosh. Cannonball and shovel all came together, and the ground loosened again. However, they were still a step late. Get out of the way. After swinging his arm to the maximum force, Finx roared and smashed down hard on the ground. Boom. The ground cracked, gravel flew, and the stone was broken. The rolling gravel storm swept in all directions with Finx as the center. It has to be Ripper Cyclotron. Lon gently shook his body and dodged all the gravel. Finx's Ripper Cyclotron is a standard enhancer and ability. The more his arm rotates, the greater the punch force. However, he doesn't seem to know how to grasp the effect of the number of rotations on the force. It fits the desperate character of the enchanter type. Just as he continued to watch Finx preparing to kill everyone, Lan's phone suddenly rang. He took it out and looked at the phone number, making him a little happy. What's wrong? It's rare for you to call me. Ah, it's the technology you told me about before. After the call was connected, Jing's vague voice came from the other end of the phone. Someone here is very interested in your Dino Caps technology. As early as when he saw Lon take out the Dino Caps set, Jing was keenly aware of the important strategic role of this item. Not only in daily life but also in the subsequent exploration of the Dark Continent. Before the two parted, Jing mentioned that he wanted to find a big man in the relevant field to do research. Although Lon said that he couldn't trust those people, in terms of research ability in this area, no one was more professional than the people Jing knew. Then I will send you some of the technology in this area and the finished object. Aren't you afraid that I'll embezzle it? You can try, Jing. After the two chatted for a few more words, Lon hung up the phone. Then he saw the wide-eyed Saditz next to him. The person you just chatted with was Mr. Jing. Ah, what, do you know him? Lon asked knowingly. Well, Mr. Jing is my benefactor. Saditz nodded seriously with a serious face. Originally, he was a hunter who excavated the ruins for fame. After hearing about Jing's achievements, he felt very ashamed and later devoted himself to the protection and restoration of the ruins. He admired Jing's behavior very much, so when he later learned that Gon was Jing's son, he took good care of him. It can be said that he is a little fan of Jing. Since he is a person who can chat with Mr. Jing, then Sadits thought about it and slowly closed the distance with Lon. At this time, below. Sure enough, they are all a bunch of garbage. The dust and smoke covered the area, and a mocking voice came from the thick dust. The throat of soil rat Zardal, who had no time to sneak into the ground, was crushed. Puff. Steel Cannon, Camelot, who was looking for a cover to hide, was pierced directly through the chest by a sharp knife. Dang. The shovel of Gravedigger Gurus was crushed directly, and his head was also broken along with the shovel. What a rotten fish and shrimp, ugh. The thick dust disperses, revealing Finx's unscathed figure. His murderous eyes stared at the other ruins hunters nearby, whose faces gradually turned pale. Their expressions, from the original mockery and disdain at the beginning, turned into complete horror now. The corpses lying on the ground were famous among the ruins hunters. But now, they all lie prone on the ground without a single breath. Monster. Someone suddenly screamed and then retreated immediately. This scream seemed to blow the horn of retreat, and the many ruins hunters who had come to surround Finx all rushed to retreat and flee. The ruins can be dug up again, and the burial objects can be found again, but there is only one life. No one knows whether this eyebrowless, vicious guy will drag them down with him before he dies. This is obviously a hard bone to chew, and it is extremely ruthless. It is not worth throwing away your life for the burial objects of the pharaoh. Realizing this, the ruins hunters made a decisive choice and chose to evacuate. Stop. Finx bumped his fists and shouted angrily. However, the louder he shouted, the faster the ruins hunters retreated. As for Finx himself, it was just a bluff. His voice was loud, but his steps were slow. He was not stupid, who knew if these ruins hunters had strange Nen ability. Chasing too hastily would only cause unnecessary trouble. Stop while he's ahead, anyway, his things are not lost. You are a cowardly rat in the gutter. Spitting again with disdain, Finx straightened his pharaoh hoodie. Then he looked up and looked in a certain direction in the forest. Are there any more mice left? Finx looked up and saw two people standing on the tree next to him. Bang. He bumped his fists again, and the bloodlust in his body spread out again. Just when he was ready to go. Hey, you are Finx, right? A greeting suddenly came from above, causing Finx's figure to pause. Huh. Finx stared at the figure that jumped down from the tree. Do you know me? Ah, I heard you from Maki, Phaeton, and Finx. Lon said, I just came out of Meteor City and met them. Maki. Phaeton. Franklin. At this moment, Finx's forehead was gradually filled with question marks. You know them. And you said you came from Meteor City, so you are also from Meteor City. Asking when you don't understand is the enchanter type's biggest advantage. Yes, I still have Maki's phone number in my hand. Lon nodded and spit out a string of numbers. Finx was silent. Then he was alert, maintaining his momentum, and took out his mobile phone from his pocket. He pressed twice and took it in front of him to look. It's really this number. After checking it several times and confirming that it was correct, he nodded repeatedly. Lon, as a member of the troupe, you don't remember the phone numbers of your companions, but just save them in your mobile phone. Yes, this is in line with the stereotype of enhancer types. And Finx's next behavior can be said to be more vivid. Dudu kacha. Moshi moshi. What's wrong, Finx? Chapter 113, Superimposed Blind Box. Maki's cold voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello, Maki. Finx, who would ask the person directly if he had any doubts, looked at Lon and then asked on the phone, there is a guy named Lon. Do you know him? Huh. Maki, on the other end of the phone, was obviously a little surprised. How do you know this guy? Because he is standing in front of me. Finx said as a matter of course, he said he also knows you, Phaeton, and Franklin. Well, we just met here in Meteor City before. Maki did not hide this point, so what is your current position and situation? Enemy. Not yet. Finx thought about it seriously and then grinned and asked suicidal questions. What do you think about me crushing his neck? Whatever you want. Maki said directly, but if you die, I won't give you the rubber factory. Crack. She hung up the phone directly. It seems that you're not an enemy. Finx put away the phone and looked seriously at Lon. How did you know Maki and the others? It's a long story. They are in Meteor City. You can ask them yourself. Lon raised his hand slightly and put away the blue blind box next to Finx. I didn't know that there were so many powerful characters in Meteor City. Finx narrowed his eyes. It seems that Franklin specifically pulled Shizuka from Meteor City to join, which is the right way. He kept staring at Lon, and his whole body was full of momentum and eagerness to try. Maki's words just now really aroused his desire to compete with Lon. Lon looked at him and suddenly said, "Your clothes are pretty good looking." He gave his opinion and evaluation. "It suits you very well." "You think so too, right?" The momentum on Finx's body disappeared instantly. "Ha ha ha ha, I knew I was not the only one who thought so." Finx put one hand behind his head, looking particularly happy. "Phaeton, that idiot doesn't understand the benefits of this outfit. Of course, it is a bit difficult to wear it with his height. I also think that no one is more suitable for this outfit than me, ha ha ha." Lan's two sentences can be regarded as poking his itch. Although both parties tacitly maintained a safe distance, Finx still started to chatter about his dress. "I tell you, only the pharaoh-level headscarf feels better when worn, and the others are almost the same in terms of weight and size. And the cape on my body, only the pharaoh's specifications make me feel comfortable, others are too small." Saditz, who also did not leave, quietly watched Lon and Finx chatting and getting along. The corpses lying on the ground next to them looked a little out of place. Saditz didn't feel anything about getting along with such a dangerous murderer. What he had heard about Jing before seemed to be he was in a good relationship with a murderer named Lon. Everyone has their own cognition and mode of getting along, and Saditz doesn't have any moral cleanliness. As a hunter, he is used to this world, and he thinks this is very normal. "If we meet again in the future, I will discuss it with you one more time." Finx left with satisfaction, and before leaving, he did not forget to issue another declaration of war. Now, he had just fought with a group of people, and he would not be stupid enough to fight with an unknown, seemingly mysterious guy again. He and Yuvajin, who must fight to the end, are different types of guys. If there is a chance in the future. Lon also waved at him and then looked at the blind box in the storage space. He was in a better mood. "I hope you can bring me a better blind box next time." He muttered in his heart and opened it. "Get an uncommon blind box, do you want to open it? Open successfully, get Navy 6 style, paper art. Source world, 1 piece. Another Navy 6 style." Lon estimated that after meeting the other members of the Phantom Troupe, maybe he could collect them all. And this time, only one type of blind box is opened. Lon had a new guess in his mind. Just like Phaeton and Franklin before, although only one blind box appeared when the two of them were present, 2 techniques were opened, which just represented the 2 members of character present. It seems that sometimes blind boxes will be gathered together and superimposed. Maybe even if 2 key figures appear at the same time, only one blind box will appear. At the same time, the level of this blind box and the things inside will be superimposed and upgraded accordingly. For example, when 2 characters with white blind boxes appear together in some occasions, the 2 white blind boxes will be upgraded to 1 blue blind box. Although there is no clear explanation, Lon feels this possibility is very high. "Next, Mr. Saditz, what do you plan?" After sending Finx away, Lon turned around and looked at Saditz, who was waiting quietly. Just because all the ruins hunters were scared away just now, but Saditz followed him. Lon still had a certain good impression of him. "Just call me Saditz." Saditz glanced at the figures around him, who were almost covered by dust and sand, and shook his head. "I have dealt with some of these people before, and I plan to help them rest in peace first. Then go back and repair the ruins." Hearing this, Lon couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. It's really worthy of Mr. Saditz's reputation. This is what a real ruins hunter should do. No, I was just inspired by Mr. Jing." The two exchanged a few more pleasantries. "If Mr. Lon can meet Mr. Jing next time." Saditz slowly extended his hand to Lon. "Please tell him that I know." Lon shook it with a snap. In this world, there is still a hunter who is inspired by him and is doing their best to work as a ruins hunter. He smiled and said to Saditz, "If there is a chance, I can arrange for you to meet." "Thank you very much." After parting with Saditz, Lon did not encounter any twists and turns on his way back. When he returned to the Nostrade family, he found that none of the familiar faces were there. Only Squala was left lonely, and he curled up in the garden, teasing his dog. "You're back, leader." After discovering that Lon had returned, Squala quickly put down the dog food in his hand and got up from the ground. "Why are you the only one here?" Lon looked around the yard, and it seemed that it had been expanded a lot during the time he was not here. At least the original small villa had been replaced by a more luxurious and magnificent villa. It can be seen that the Nostrade family has developed very well in the past few months. "Where are the others?" He walked in the lawn garden that was more verdant after the renovation. "The boss went out to discuss business." Squala stopped the dog next to him, who wanted to grin, and immediately responded, "Recently, with the help of the lady's divination, the boss has developed more and more customers, and the scale is getting bigger and bigger. He has been busy outside during this period and rarely comes back here. And in order to ensure that there are enough people over there and for their own safety, in addition to Dalzaline, the boss also brought Evlenkov over. With Jing's help, the Nostrade family has now entered a stage of rapid development." Light Nostrade was also tired but happy despite being busy all the time. Chapter 114, Developing Martial Arts Skill. As for the young lady, she heard that a new ruin was excavated near the city of Orbach, and it is said that a pharaoh's body was excavated from it. The lady has gone there under Castro and Shakmono Tassino's protection. Squala said this with a little more bitterness in his words. Neon went with her maids this time, including his girlfriend Eliza. He wanted to go with them, but the boss asked him, a guard who could control dogs, to stay and watch the house. So Squala is a qualified guard dog, right? And it seems that the boss believes in his ability to watch the house and is very satisfied with his work. He is especially good at this aspect. If it's in the past. Squala really wants to thank him. Orbach. Lon paused. Why did he feel that the name of the city sounded familiar? And the new ruins, the body of the pharaoh. All these add up to a sense of déjà vu that seems to be getting more and more. "Ah, I heard that it is close to an abandoned gathering place called Meteor City." Squala nodded, and then he was still a little scared. "I heard that after the ruins were mined, a thug destroyed them and stole the pharaoh's crown, clothes, and other valuable items. And it seems that he also killed several ruins hunters. If it weren't for the Hunter Association's intervention in this matter, and Orbach is an important base of our superior family, the Ritz family. Otherwise, the boss would not let the young lady go there." Speaking of which, Squala was still a little scared and fortunate. After hearing about the incident in that city, he felt that it was a good thing that he didn't go there and was quite safe. But when he thought of Eliza being there, he couldn't help but worry. Lon. No wonder he felt so much déjà vu, it turned out to be the place he had just returned from. With Neon's strange hobby of collecting human organs, it is not incomprehensible that she rushed there as soon as she learned about this. "It just so happens that no one is home, so I can take this opportunity to have a good rest, and by the way." Lon stretched and muttered to himself. "I can try to use Kame Senryu to develop some skills from other martial arts schools. The most classic one is the Crane School, which is almost as famous as the Kame Senryu in Dragon Ball. Although Master Shin is not a very good person, it must be said that his martial arts attainments are really good, especially the most classic and practical skill among them, the Sky Dance. The Sky Dance technique mainly achieves flight by controlling the ki in the body. First of all, it requires the practitioner to have a calm mind and no distractions, and then to achieve suspension and movement by concentrating and guiding the ki in the body. Specifically, the practitioners need to keep the body relaxed, control the ki, and release it slowly and moderately so that they can float up. Once they can freely control the release of ki, they can further learn how to change ki's direction to control their movement. For example, different proportions of ki can be allocated to control the left and right flight. In short, it is the use of ki. After saying hello to the old housekeeper, Charaba, Lon also walked into the new villa. I remember that in this world if you use the flow of aura properly, you can also stay in the air for a short time. For example, in the Greed Island chapter, when Razor jumped up, a large amount of aura gathered at his feet, which greatly increased his jumping ability, and he stayed in the air for a short time. It seems that the idea is correct. We just need to verify it more, Anne. Lon stretched out a finger and raised it, with numbers constantly changing on it. I have no problem practicing the basic ability of Nen, and the use of high-level skills can be integrated with the martial arts of Kame Senryu. For example, the key sense is exactly the same as N, but both have their own advantages and disadvantages. They all sense the opponent's position and movements, but once the opponent blocks their breath, key sense can't know the opponent's situation. On the other hand, if the N is unfolded, as long as the opponent is within the range of the circle, even if the breath is blocked, his every move can be known. However, the N can only be within the range of oneself, and the key sense can detect existence even if they are thousands of miles away. One is good at close range, and the other is full-time long distance. If the two are combined, there will be no shortcomings. If you open it with this idea, other advanced combinations of the power of N ability, such as Ken, Ko, and Shu, etc., have the possibility of being explored. Especially this trip, and the contact with Bohara, Jing, and others, also gave Lon more ideas. There is still some time before the hunter exam next year. Do it when you want to do it. After resting a little in his room, he immediately starts training again. In this way, the entire villa has once again returned to peace. In addition to Squala's dogs patrolling very seriously and responsibly every day, there are no other troubles. Time flies, and the days pass by in a flash. There is no time during cultivation, and the cold never ends. The turmoil in Orbach gradually subsided. After part of the pharaoh's body was auctioned and part was sent to the museum, there was no more attention. Only a group of ruins hunters led by Sadits were left there, diligently repairing the crumbling ruins. And Sadits' behavior also won the praise of the Hunter Association. And they plan to invite him to serve as the chief examiner of a round of the hunter exam next year. The gourmet hunter Bohara also attracts the attention of the Hunter Association. With his extremely novel cooking methods, twice-cooked pork, mapo tofu, and other unique dishes have attracted widespread attention from the food industry. He has also been included in the category of examiners by the Hunter Association. For this hunter exam, the association worked hard to reverse the negative impact of last year. They want to make sure there will be no mistakes this year. With such enthusiasm and mobilization, time passed slowly, and it was 1999 again. The day of the hunter exam is coming. Chapter 115, Relationship between Lon and Neon. The climate of the Asian continent is different from that of other continents. Even in the winter of January, it is still as warm as spring. Especially the location chosen by Light Nostrade, the main feature is a suitable and comfortable one. Behind the luxurious villa, in the newly built training room. Bang. 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 The sound of fists hitting flesh continued to ring, and finally ended with the falling of figures one after another. It's almost over here. Shakmono Tassino next to him hurriedly stopped him and took back his almost broken Nen ability, 11 black children, while feeling a little distressed. It still doesn't work. Castro, in the center of the field, shook his head slightly. This level of opponent was not even a warm-up for him now. Unconsciously, his eyes subconsciously looked at Lon, who was sitting there and observing his movements and state. Then, he quickly threw away some unrealistic ideas in his mind. He always felt that his Lon seemed to have made incredible progress in strength. At least, he felt more unfathomable. You are in a very good state now. After Castro came over, Lon nodded slightly and made a positive comment. It seems that you're ready for the next battle with Hisoka. Castro's face was calm. I have waited for a long time, just for that moment. He has never forgotten the shame of losing to Hisoka before. Now, after this period of training, his strength has made great progress. According to the agreement with Hisoka on the stage, he was prepared to return to Heaven Arena and avenge the previous shame with Hisoka. You have made up your mind, I won't say much. Lon patted his shoulder. When the time comes, I will be there to cheer you up. Thanks, leader. Castro nodded heavily. Back then, he made up his mind to improve his strength and chose to follow Lon here. Now, Castro is grateful for how wise his choice was. Everything was thanks to the men in front of him for everything he had now. This thanks was made with sincerity and conviction. I heard that you are going to participate in this year's hunter exam, right, leader? Castro took the towel from Shakmono Tassino, wiped the sweat off his face, and asked. Well, I have nothing to do, so I might as well go and have some fun this year. Lon said it very easily. He had been waiting for this year for a long time. In this hunter exam, the main storyline will be officially entered, and the blind box that will appear is something that Lon has been looking forward to for a long time. In this Hunter exam, the Hunter Association should not have that kind of stupid examiner again, right? Shakmono Tessino also came over to join in the fun. Last year, when I heard that you beat the examiner, I was really shocked. As long as the association is not stupid, it should know what to do this time. Lon wanted to say that you had overestimated the guys in the Hunter Association. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a capricious and neurotic examiner in the second round of exams. Up to chapter 194 is available at my Patreon. com/0daydream0. If Netero hadn't had the experience and arrived at the scene in time, the situation might have continued to get worse. It can only be said that they never learned the lesson but instead worked hard on the subsequent compensation and loss prevention. But if you want to take the Hunter exam, the young lady Castro reminded, in 2 days, a nearby city will hold a medical ceremony. It's the same as always, you and Shakmono Tessino can accompany her. Lon said casually, if you can't get away, let Linson go for you. Linson is a new member of the guard team recruited by Light Nostrade. He's thin, with a pale face and a sickly look, and looks very ordinary and unremarkable. He has no presence in the manga. If Light Nostrade hadn't recruited him, Lon would have almost forgotten that such a person existed. However, after Kurapika took control of the Nostrade family, he became Kurapika's right-hand man. It is enough to show that he still has some skills. Not to mention, he is also a professional hunter who has passed the Hunter exam and voted in the chairman election. Basic qualities are still no problem. But the young lady specifically asked you, the leader, to accompany her. Castro hesitated. In the past 2 years, he has taken care of Neon for such a long time, and he can be regarded as understanding her personality. Once Lon doesn't go, maybe she will cry and make a fuss again. It doesn't matter. When I come back, I will bring her some gifts and coax her well. Lon waved his hand. Besides, there is Eliza to comfort her, so it's not a big problem, don't you think, Squala? Squala, who had been silent, nodded numbly. Anyway, he would be left at the villa to look after the house, and people were used to it. He still remembered that not long after Lon came back, Neon, who had taken a part of the pharaoh's body, and returned home happily. After hearing that Lon was back, she pouted immediately. It must be said that their leader is the one who can coax Neon very well. They don't know where he got his gift from, but it is said that it is the teeth of the most famous combat unit of the 10 Mafia Dons, the Shadow Beasts. He boasted so much that not only did Neon's pouting mouth disappear, but her eyes were also full of stars. Later, Lon told the young lady some follow-up stories, such as taking away the pharaoh's clothes and fighting the ruins hunter. Neon was also very engrossed in listening, and before she knew it, she leaned against Lon again. In Squala's opinion, these were all stories to coax children, and he didn't take them seriously at all. As for the relationship between the young lady and the leader, I'm just a doorman, what right do I have to say? Castro is Lan's younger brother, and Shakmono Tessino has wisely stood on Lan's side. He is a bodyguard who guards the house with a dog. Even if he can see the situation inside, he won't be stupid enough to report to the boss. Squala will not forget that although his current strength is still poor, it is much better than before. Who is it thanks to? So, the relationship between Lon and Neon became something that everyone in the big villa knew, and it was all self-evident on the surface. Even the old housekeeper, Charaba, who was already quite old, was unwilling to find trouble for himself. Especially after Lon found Bohara and arranged a very comfortable and safe job for his grandson in the food industry, which was far away from the mafia. He decisively turned a blind eye to everything. As for whether the boss knew about this matter, it was not their business. Okay, I'll talk to the eldest lady later. Castro sighed. He had already anticipated the crying scene at that time. It's hard for you. Lon looked at the people present and chuckled again. Leave it to us, leader. Castro and others responded solemnly in unison. And when Lon was about to leave here. Chapter 116, the 1999 Hunter Exam. In a dilapidated small building. It's time to go. The tall man in a suit and small round sunglasses took a last look at the empty, narrow room. He pushed his glasses, put all the books and basic medicines in his briefcase, picked it up, and turned around without any reluctance. Wait, Pietro, I will become a doctor and realize my dream. And getting a hunter's license for medical university's exemption for tuition is the third step to realize our dream. He raised his head and chest, there was nothing else in his eyes, only the determination to risk his life and everything and to move forward. In an unknown forest on the other side. Once, this place was famous for the massacre of the Troupe clan. But now, it has become desolate and dilapidated. At the entrance of the forest, a handsome and blond boy, whose gender is difficult to distinguish, knelt at the entrance, and whispered softly, "The sun upon my face, the grass beneath my feet. My skin cleansed by the water of a lake. My spirit soars among the clouds, my path illuminated by the moon and stars. I honor my ancestors for bringing me to this place and defend my brethren with my dying breath. I will step forward to humbly share in their joy and carry the burden of their sorrows." The earring on the left ear swayed gently in the wind, and the orange-blue clothes on the body swayed with it. By my word and deed, their name will live on. For my scarlet eyes and my blood are one with theirs. I will take up the mantle and accept any wrongdoing I commit to preserve the Troupe people until we are redeemed forever. After reciting the last prayer, the boy's eyes suddenly opened. A pair of scarlet eyes, breathtakingly beautiful and incomparable. It is also the only pair of eyes in the world that are full of emotions. I'm leaving, elders, father, mother, and Pero. The blond boy slowly stood up and bowed deeply again at the entrance of the forest. Then, he turned around and resolutely embarked on the journey of revenge. The lonely back and the heavy hatred he carried made his body look particularly small at this time. On the other side, in the big city that formed a sharp contrast with the lonely and desolate forest. The lights were bright, and the neon lights flashed particularly dazzlingly. Young men and women in fashionable clothes were laughing and enjoying their nightlife. But they didn't notice the short figure that quietly passed by them. Hunter exam. The boy stopped at the window of the home appliance store and looked at the hunter's license advertised on the TV screen. It seems that there is no place to go for the time being. Originally, he ran away from home and didn't know what to do next. He seemed to have found 3 goals at this moment. Let's go there and have some fun. The head of silver hair was particularly dazzling under the flickering lights. While he was planning his next course of action. A fighter's room in the heavens arena. It seems that I have one more reason to participate in this hunter exam. Listening to the crazy and neurotic voice of his mother coming from the phone, Illumi tilted his head slightly. It just so happens that my next commission also requires a hunter's license. Let's complete the 2 things together. After saying that, he looked at the motionless figure holding a notice letter sitting on the bed next to him. What do you say? Will you go this year? Yes, of course, I will go. Putting down Castro's letter of challenge, Hisoka slowly raised his head. The corners of his mouth had already drawn a huge arc unconsciously. It's really unexpected that the fruits planted in the past have matured in almost the same period of time. It seems that this year is really the harvest season, hee. Hisoka was crazy there, and Illumi was already used to this kind of routine. But he didn't care about this thing. This year, will the man named Lon come? Equals. Up to chapter 196 is available at my Patreon. com/0daydream0. Yes, he will definitely come. When this name was mentioned, Hisoka's body trembled again. It was the kind of excitement to the critical point, and his body couldn't help trembling. He promised me that he would come this year. Is that so? Illumi also put his index finger on his chin. Then it seems that I have to take some precautions. This man has his own secrets, and he beat up the examiner last year. If he gets angry again this year, maybe I will get hurt too. That includes you, Hisoka. Illumi looked at Hisoka and kindly reminded him, do you need my help? The price is very fair. Whoosh. Before he finished speaking, 2 playing cards flew by his side. He is my prey. In the gap where Illumi's cut hair fell, Hisoka's extremely perverted and aggressive eyes were revealed. No one is allowed to take him away. In another dense forest in the wilderness, there was someone who had a similar understanding as Hisoka. This year's hunter exam, you wait for me. In the silent night, a roar came from the jungle. Clang. The sound of the machete falling to the ground was particularly harsh. Lon, this time, I must avenge my previous shame and tear you into pieces with my own hands. Under the moonlight, the scars and marks on the man's face were revealed. Just rely on the sword skills I have practiced in the past 6 months. The familiar hunter dress that has never changed reveals that he has not forgotten the shame of the past. Wait for me, Lon. I will get rid of you in this hunter exam. The low roar full of hatred resounded in the forest. The hatred of the beating back then is irreconcilable and unforgettable. And on that distant whale island, the fishing float that had been silent in the middle of the lake finally moved, attracting the attention of the hedgehog-headed boy who had been watching the fishing for a long time on the treetop. Then, splash! The fishing float and the fishing line suddenly sank into the lake, carrying a huge force as if to overturn everything. However, the boy sitting on the tree showed an extremely happy and innocent smile. Got it. Accompanied by that cheerful shout, he exerted force on his hands, and his 2 thin arms suddenly exerted force. Instantly, a hideous fish with several strange lower limbs was pulled out of the lake by the hedgehog-headed boy. Success! I caught the master of the swamp. I can go to the hunter exam. A heartfelt laugh resounded through the sky, and the joy in his heart was shared with most of the animals in the forest. Under the leadership of the fox bear, they all howl in congratulations. Under those howls, the 1999 hunter exam officially kicked off. The headquarters building of the Hunter Association. It's going to start again this year. In the chairman's office, Mr. Netero looked at the registration information form that he had specially asked to hand over. Looking at the familiar name and information on it, he stroked his beard and smiled particularly happily. Let me see how much you have improved after not seeing you for a year. Chapter 117, Starting Point of All the Stories. Netero is looking forward to Lan's return again. But some people are reluctant to see such a suited thug again. What should I do? That devil will definitely come again this year. The square-nosed rookie crusher, who is huddled in his own residence, is in an unusual distress this year. His intuition can predict that the murderer will also definitely come again this year. Then, should I participate in this year's hunter exam or not? Should I keep refreshing my record and continue to participate regardless of danger, or should I get through this session first and wait for the next time? As an old player who has participated in hunter exams for more than 30 years, he feels that he has to make the biggest decision in his life at this time. On the other side, in a wooden house under the lone pine tree at the top of the mountain, the Fox family sat around the table. Dad, will he come again this year? The Fox son asked while biting a carrot. He said he would come. The Fox's father said firmly, he said before entering the examination room last year that he wanted me to lead the way again. Is that so? That's great. These carrots taste terrible, not as good as the ones Lon gave us last time. Do you think Lon will bring a carrot this time? Ah. In the desolate village between the lone pine tree and the port. It's a new hunter exam. The quizzing lady sat in the rocking chair, soothing herself gently. I wonder what kind of newcomers will emerge in this year's hunter exam and whether they will be as good as the young men last year. The breeze blew, allowing her to hide the only 2 teeth left exposed, and she fell into memories. At the departure port of the Hunter Association, a ship that had sailed for decades was ready to go after maintenance. Get ready to sail again, old friend. The drunken red-nosed captain carefully cleaned the last trace of water stains on the deck. Get ready to welcome the brats this year. Maybe there will be an old guy this time. The drunken red-nosed captain seemed to have thought of something, and he couldn't help but tighten the bottle of wine in his arms. There was also an expectant smile on his face. Little ones, let's go. Oh. At the red-nosed captain's command, the passenger ship once again set sail, sailing against the wind and waves to the first gathering point for picking up candidates who signed up for the hunter exam. The horn of the 287th hunter exam has already sounded. Equals. Up to chapter 196 is available at my Patreon. com/0daydream0. Whale Island is the familiar check-in point again. When Lon stepped onto the island again, he had an unusual feeling. So you went to Whale Island, right? Lan's phone was filled with Jing's extremely dissatisfied tone. Even if Lan couldn't see his expression at this time, he knew that Jing should be staring at him with a pair of dead fish eyes at this moment. Of course, I believe in where you fall, you get up from there. Lan responded with a smile, this is also my good virtue and advantage. It makes me go further. Jing. If he was not afraid that Lan would do something extreme on Whale Island, the word bullshit stuck in Jing's mouth would almost be spit out. Jing was not afraid of Lan ruining his plan or something like that. But he was afraid that Lan would secretly find Gon and tell him some of his arrangements in advance. He would be embarrassed and ashamed. In order to keep his face as a father, Jing could only suppress this shame in his heart. The analysis and development of dino caps have achieved certain results, and it is expected that it will be officially put into experiment and use in a while. Jing coughed twice, kindly, reminding him that there was such a result. Do you want to try using the semi-finished product first? No need for that. The finished product in my hand is still good, and it is not yet time to use the semi-finished product. Lan replied lightly. After he returned to the Nostrade family last year, he passed on one of the rarely used dino caps pieces and the technology to Jing through a special channel. Jing has many ways to receive things, so Lan naturally doesn't need to worry about this. During this period of time, certain scientific research results have been obtained. Even if the technology exists from nothing to a semi-finished product for experiments, such scientific research results are already terrifying. Also, I say it again, I am not interested in research in other directions. I did not develop the technology of dino caps, so the invitation to chat with me to discuss technology is directly rejected. Then, when Jing wanted to say something, Lan directly refused again. Well, during this period of time, people who studied dino caps have always wanted to find Lan, who took out this technology to study and discuss it. And for such a scientific research madman, Lan naturally declined. But. Lan interrupted Jing again, also, I'm at the bar now, ready to have a drink before taking the hunter exam. Do you think I should drink a few more glasses and have a good chat with this beautiful lady boss or not drink at all and talk about our past? I think you should just take the hunter exam. Jing, on the other end of the phone, was unusually decisive, you are very busy there and can't leave. I have declined all invitations for scientific research. Click. After saying that, Jing hung up the phone immediately without waiting for Lan to continue. It felt like a shameful escape. Lan put away the phone and looked up to see the door of the bar in front of him. Mito, the bartender, hugged the hedgehog-headed boy tightly and then let him go as if he were her own child. Take care, I will come back after I become an excellent hunter. With a wave of his hand, the hedgehog-headed boy disappeared in the distance. Until he could no longer be seen. Mito, who was staring at the scene in front of her, sighed and turned back to the bar. It's really the starting point of all the stories. Being able to witness this scene with his own eyes, Lan also sighed a little. More than that, he was happy. Sure enough, it can be regarded as catching up, this is the moment to start the journey. Lan looked at the red blind box that exuded a dazzling luster and was about to dissipate on the spot, he went straight forward and quickly put it away. Only when this fate line starts will there be a blind box of this level. Just after arriving at Whale Island, he had such a harvest, which also made him more determined to participate in this year's hunter exam. Get a rare level blind box, do you want to open it? Open. Open successfully, and get the 4-star Dragon Ball. Source World, Dragon Balls. This does not need to be introduced too much. Collect 7 Dragon Balls, and you can summon Shenron to fulfill any wish. Including but not limited to resurrecting the dead, conquering the world, etc. This kind of causal ability is the most buggy. This 4-star Dragon Ball is the beginning of the storyline of Dragon Ball. It is also the fundamental and direct reason for the encounter between Goku and Bulma and the subsequent series of stories. Chapter 118, Father's Dedication to His Child. After putting away the 4-star Dragon Ball, Lan stepped forward and opened the door of Mito's bar. Dingling. The bell of the arrival of the guests rang, and Mito, who was still sat at the bar, sorted out her emotions a little and wiped her eyes. Welcome. She quickly adjusted back to the normal state of receiving guests, stood up, and greeted, would you like something to drink? Let's have a glass of thorn. Lan pulled open a chair, sat at the bar, and scanned the surrounding environment. The bar was very clean and tidy, and there was a faint, warm smell. As the only bar on the entire island, Meteor cleaned it up very well. Thorn. Meteor muttered the name and shook her head. "Excuse me, sir. Is this the wine from outside? We are just a small bar, and I have never heard of this name." "It's okay, it's very simple to make. I'll tell you how to make it." Lon casually put a gold coin on the table. "Take 45 to 60 milliliters of gin, then add 20 milliliters of lemon juice, and then add 20 milliliters of white sugar syrup." Meteor glanced at the gold coins and then quickly took out a pen and paper to write down Lan's request. The customer is a god, and the customer who can pay the bill directly with the gold coins without saying anything is a god among gods. Fill the cup with crushed ice, and shake it for 3 seconds. Lon described the process step by step, and Meteor recorded it while taking the actual process seriously. If she could learn a new way of mixing drinks, the business of the tavern might be better. "This is the thorn wine you ordered, please taste it." After careful handling, Meteor brought this glass of new wine with bright black and red colors to Lon. "It's my first time making it, please forgive me if there are any shortcomings." "It's nothing, just based on the appearance, it's already very good." Lon took a sip, then nodded, "And it tastes even better. Thank you for your recognition." Meteor thanked politely. "This wine is called Thorn. Does it have any special meaning?" Meteor asked casually while arranging the wine utensils and looking at the black and red color wine. "This has nothing to do with the green color of thorns. Well, to cut through the thorns, no matter how difficult and painful it is, no matter what kind of danger you face, you could go through it." Lon picked up the glass of wine and said with a smile, "This wine is for those who go out to venture and the best blessing for them." Meteor paused for a moment while arranging the wine utensils. "I saw it all outside just now." Lon took another sip of wine. "Is he your son?" "No, it's a nephew." Meteor was silent for a moment and told the truth. "I see, not parent, but better than parent." Lon nodded, looking at his preparations. "Is he also going to take the hunter exam this year?" "Also." Meteor raised her head and looked at Lan's outfit seriously. He was wearing a standard black suit, which looked like the outfit of a social elite. "Yes, I am also a candidate for the hunter exam this year." Lon understood the meaning in Meteor's eyes and said with a smile. Looking at Meteor's instantly alert and vigilant eyes, he drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. "Don't get me wrong, I just came to see this child. His head shape is exactly the same as his father's." "Father?" Meteor, who was originally alert and vigilant, was suddenly stunned. "What do you mean?" "It doesn't mean anything, just a brief statement of my own personal opinion." Lon waved his hand gently. "I am not interested in intervening in and understanding your complicated relationship, and I will not do anything boring to that child. I just happened to pass by here by chance and wanted to take a look." "Just by chance?" Meteor opened her mouth with many questions in her mind. As a result, her eyes blurred, and the next second, Lan's figure had disappeared from the original seat. Ding! The doorbell of the bar rang again, and Lon had already opened the door. "By the way, there is one more thing." He turned back and looked at the glass of wine. "This cup of wine also represents the father's dedication to his children and teaches the children the spirit of fearlessness and courage to move forward. If there is a chance in the future, you can mix it for those who need it. Your bartending skills are very good. I hope I can taste such wine next time I come." "Wait." Meteor's words just came out, and the door of the bar dinged shut. Meteor ran out of the bar and opened the door. But what came into her view was an empty scene without a single person. "Thorns, Jing. Who is he?" Meteor murmured. She felt that the shock she suffered today was a bit big. Whether it was Gon's departure or the arrival of this man, her emotions fluctuated so much that her heart couldn't bear it. "Let's close the bar for the time being." She hung the sign of closing on the door and went back to the house to calm her heart. The arrival of the man in the black suit certainly caused her emotions to fluctuate. But she felt vaguely that this man didn't seem to have any malicious intentions. "I hope Gon can be fine in this hunter exam." She muttered to herself there. Someone came to the door, and what he said was all related to Jing. He must know Jing. Jing is a complete troublemaking bastard. She believed that this was related to Jing, and because it involved Gon, Meteor was furious and couldn't help but start to get angry. Achoo! In a ruined jungle thousands of miles away, Jing, who was sitting on one of the heads of a huge two-headed wolf, sneezed hard. He rubbed his nose and asked with self-awareness, "Strange, is someone talking about me behind my back again?" After drinking a glass of wine from Meteor's bar, Lon felt that he was in a good state and walked slowly to the town at the port. Once is strange, twice is familiar, and it is not strange to come here again. And the folk customs here are still so simple. Catch the thief. The fisherman on the street wailed and ran out to chase the thief. It's really like that. The people are simple and honest. Lon, who saw all these scenes, nodded again. The town was then in great turmoil due to the many rare and exotic animals released by the exhibition group. There are three-headed venomous snakes, as well as giant frogs that particularly like rainy days, rotating turtles that can't stop once they start turning, and the fox bear, the king of the forest. In short, this place is also particularly lively due to the passenger ship that is about to set sail. At the same time, the two blind boxes with red luster are also looming in this port. The three protagonists are all gathered, ready to board the ship and officially start the next journey. Chapter 119, St. Elmo's Fire. Seagulls flew through the sky, and the passenger ship blew the whistle and headed for the last port. Whoosh! In the air, accompanied by a beautiful parabola. Two figures, one big and one small, fell from the sky one after another. Safe landing. The hedgehog-headed boy in green clothes squatted on one knee handsomely with a sunny smile on his face. Bang. The man with round glasses and a briefcase next to him fell flat on his face. Are you okay, Uncle? Don't call me Uncle, call me Leorio. Oh, okay, my name is Gon Freaks, Leorio, you can just call me Gon. These two main characters who boarded the ship finally caught up with this last ship. It seems that it will not be boring before reaching the end of this year. The red-nosed captain witnessed this scene with his own eyes and took 2 puffs of the pipe in his mouth to refresh himself. But then again, I don't think I saw. Huh. He led a group of sailors around, trying to find the person he wanted to see. Then, he saw a figure in a corner of the deck, smiling and waving at him. Is he here after all? The red-nosed captain grinned, and he could hardly put down his pipe. I knew that this man would never miss the hunter exam, which was like a lively event for him. The captain pressed down the brim of his hat and continued to walk around on the deck. How could this lawless man miss such an interesting event as the hunter exam? I wonder what interesting things he will do this year. It's really exciting. There's no rush to reminisce. After he completes the preliminary screening of the applicants, there will be time to sit down and have a good chat later. He continued to look around the deck. How many people can survive this year? Looking at the passenger feeling seasick and the people who hunt seagulls with knives for fun, he couldn't help shaking his head. They are all a bunch of spineless guys, and they are even a little bit worse than last year's candidate. You, and you, get off the boat. The red-nosed captain used his authority to let the sailors throw those useless guys into the sea one by one and then kindly gave them a life buoy. With their level, participating in the hunter exam is nothing but a way to die. We are still passenger ship. Leorio, who was leaning against the mast, muttered softly while Karapaika, who was sitting on the other side, watched the scene coldly. As for Gon, he turned a deaf ear to it and sat at the stern, concentrating on fishing with a fishing rod. Get a rare level blind box, do you want to open it? Lon, who was standing by, watched the scene with peace of mind. Then he took the red blind box that was faintly visible at the port, came on board with Karapaika and Leorio, and opened it. Opened successfully, obtained, 2-star and 5-star Dragon Ball. Source World, Dragon Balls. Sure enough, the starting lineup of the protagonist group still gave away Dragon Balls. Moreover, Bulma found these 2 Dragon Balls herself before teaming up with Goku. Then, the two of them started their journey with 3 Dragon Balls. Everything is right. But it should be more than that. Lon held his chin with one hand and quietly watched the scene of the 2 people in front of him. On this ship, there is also a very classic duel between the 2 and then the plot of turning enemies into friends in the storm. If there is no blind box, it really doesn't make sense. I still have to follow the protagonist group to get more rare-level blind boxes. Now I suddenly understand Hisoka and Biscuit's feelings. Seeing the delicious green fruits and flawless, dazzling raw stones, the excitement and joy. Isn't he also coveting those unknown blind boxes from Gon and others? If Hisoka is a fruit farmer and Biscuit is a lapidarist, then he's a pure gambler who opens blind boxes. However, his act of opening blind boxes only needs to be found, and there is no need to pay any other costs. The deck seemed much quieter after the red-nosed captain cleared a group of people. It wasn't until Gon at the stern caught a rare fish that the boat became lively again. However, in this lively atmosphere, Lon stood up, stretched his back, and went to the cabin. The annual storm used to test the applicant's level is coming. He doesn't have the habit of getting wet in the rain outside. Lan's return did not attract anyone's attention, but Gon's performance attracted some people's attention. The storm is coming. Gon shrugged his nose and made his judgment. The wind was a little warm and had a strong salty taste, plus the attention of the seagulls. At first, some people laughed at Gon for knowing bird language, but only the captain, who seemed to see something, asked seriously. "Boy, did you get on the boat from Whale Island?" "Yes." "What does your father do?" "He is a hunter. Although I have only seen his photos, I respect him very much." "Really? Is your father also a hunter?" On Gon's back, he saw the familiar figure of that impressive person. "Boy, do you know the time and scale of the storm?" "According to the state of the seagulls and the wind, it should be in 2 hours." "Oh, you can give such an accurate answer. You are the third person to tell me that there is a storm." "The third?" "Fold the sails." The captain did not answer Gon's question but called the crew directly. The sailors on the passenger ship were already familiar with it, and they quickly closed the sails. They don't know how many times they have experienced that uniform action. Just when they took action, the sky was immediately covered with dark clouds in the next second. And just when everyone else was about to enter the cabin to hide. Boom. A flash of lightning cut through the dark night sky, as if it was a sign of some danger. The main mast of the passenger ship seemed to be coated with fluorescent agent, and began to emit pink and purple light particles. Suddenly, it looked like a strange flame was ignited, burning the entire ship. Such a scene made the entire passenger agitated with fear. This is St. Elmo's fire. In order to calm the uneasiness in everyone's hearts, the red-nosed captain stood up and explained. Since ancient times, there has been a legend that anyone who sees St. Elmo's fire will become a person who will never return. Applicants on the ship, you might as well not say it. Chapter 120, a candidate who had participated in the hunter exam last year. What is St. Elmo's fire? Gon never hides his curiosity. This is a luminous phenomenon caused by static electrons in the air or charged rain clouds affecting the electrons on the mainsail. The blond and handsome boy on the side stood up and kindly gave an explanation. By the way, he showed his erudition, which made the red-nosed captain take a closer look. Just a phenomenon. That's nothing special. The people on the deck were slightly relieved, but the captain continued, the storm is coming. Why is there such a legend? It's because every time this phenomenon occurs, there will be a huge storm. Many sailboats are hit by waves, so there are quite a few that sink to the bottom of the sea. After hearing this, the candidates on the deck did not dare to delay any longer and hurried to the cabin. But when they walked into the cabin, someone was already sitting there. The other candidates did not take it seriously and found empty seats to sit down. Gon and Leorio, who came in later, and the handsome boy with blonde hair, looked over there. If they remembered correctly, the men in a black suit should have walked in earlier. However, as the ship began to shake and bump, the few people did not pay much attention and found their own place to stay. On the contrary, Gon looked at Lon and then looked at Leorio. Leorio. "Ah, what's wrong? I think the suit that man wears is better looking than yours." "You don't have to tell me." Outside, the wind was howling, and the huge waves were sweeping across the sky, intending to drive the passenger ship galloping on the sea into the seabed. In the cabin, the captain sang an unknown ballad and manipulated the rudder at will. He accurately and quickly avoided the waves that came one after another. Like a swimming dragon, the ship shuttled across the sea. After sailing out of the turbulent sea, the captain handed the rudder to his assistants. "Okay, let's go see how the guys are doing this year." When the red-nosed captain walked into the cabin with his pipe in his mouth, what caught his eye was the crooked figures lying on the ground. Don't be ridiculous, these useless things actually want to pass the hunter exam. The captain shook his head repeatedly, not impressed by the level of these guys at all. However, there are still a few good seedlings. His eyes flashed over the three people, Gon, who was very energetic in serving water to the people next to him, Leorio, who was holding an apple and chewing it, and the handsome man with blonde hair, who closed his eyes to rest. As for Lon, who was sitting casually in the innermost part, there was no need to consider him. 4 people. The captain made a judgment in his heart, and then, just like in the original version, he took the 4 people to a separate small room. First, tell me your name. Leorio's eyebrows were raised first. My name is Gon. Karapika. Gon was the first to respond, and the handsome blonde man next to him also said his own name. After seeing that both of them said their names, Leorio also pulled the corner of his mouth. It's Leorio. Is it Gon, Karapika, and Leorio? The red-nosed captain nodded. Then why do you want to become a hunter? Hey, why should we tell you? Leorio felt that the captain was too nosy and was a little unhappy. This is not an interview. The captain was unmoved. Just answer the question quickly. What? Because my father is a hunter, I want to know what kind of job it is. Don't interrupt me. Can't you see I'm talking to this old man? Leorio turned around and scolded Gon in a gentle tone, which was in sharp contrast to his attitude when facing the captain. Just telling the reason, what's the matter? I don't want to say it. I will never say it. Leorio has his own persistence and reasons. I feel the same way as you, Leorio. Karapika also spoke at this time. And his name being called made Leorio even more unhappy. Hey, how old are you? Don't call me by my name casually. Karapika ignored him. Although lying can easily avoid annoying questions, I think lying and robbery are the most shameless behaviors in the world. Leorio, who was ignored again, was already accumulating anger. Call me Mr. Leorio now. Karapika, who had seen Leorio stealing fish before, had no good feelings for him and just stared at the captain. Besides, the reason why I want to become a hunter is very personal. Why should I tell you, someone I just met for the first time? Call me Mr. Leorio now. Karapika glanced at Leorio and said nothing again. Those who don't answer, get off the boat immediately. The red-nosed captain said in a deep voice. Huh? Don't you understand? The hunter exam has already begun. The red-nosed captain took out a certificate from his arms, from the moment you boarded the ship. Is that the Hunter Association's certificate? The Hunter Association's logo was particularly obvious, and the 3 of them recognized it at a glance. As you know, there are as many people who want to become hunters. If all of them are tested, there will not be enough manpower and time, so we will help in the selection. The red-nosed captain explained seriously, whether it is the people who fell off the ship or the people who fell on the ground over there, we have already submitted reports to the association that they are unqualified. Even if they arrive at the exam venue, they cannot participate in the exam. At this point, the red-nosed captain's mouth slowly raised. Whether you can participate in the real exam depends on my mood. So, just answer my questions obediently. Is that so? After listening to this, Leorio couldn't help but sigh. Then there is no way I have to answer. But before that, Leorio suddenly changed the subject and pointed to someone who had been silent and just watched the scene quietly. Why can this guy not answer any questions, and you didn't ask him any questions at all? Such difference in treatment made him point to Lon and question the captain. Are you talking about him? The red-nosed captain didn't expect that there would be such a brave guy who questioned Lon. His tone was natural and a little subtle, because he told me last year. Last year? Leorio was stunned when he heard it. Karapika raised his eyebrows, and Gon raised his hand very simply. What does this mean? It means that I have already taken a trip on this ship last year. Before the captain spoke, Lon spoke first. Long time no see, Captain. Although it's only been a year, it feels like a long time. The red-nosed captain smacked mouth and then he saw Lon took out a bottle of wine and threw it to him. He immediately took it carefully with a smile on his face, but separation is for a better reunion, aren't they? If you want to come again next year, I can give you a ride again. No need, I'm not interested in taking the 3rd exam. Lon shook his head. He didn't drink much, and he still had a lot of Curacao wine in stock. Really? That's a pity. The red-nosed captain was happy but a little regretful. What a pity, it will be difficult for us to meet again in the future. You are sorry that you can't drink this wine anymore, right? Ha ha ha, you figured it out. The two chatted as if no one was around, and the other three were stunned. So he was a candidate who had participated in the hunter exam last year. Chapter 121, I don't know either. Gon, who heard this meaning from the two people's conversation, looked at Lon curiously. Being able to participate in the hunter exam again, he must have had experience, right? It was his first time participating in the hunter exam, and he felt that everything was so new. It turned out to be an old student who participated in the test for the second time. Leorio, who also reacted, muttered softly. And he has such a good relationship with the captain, he must have bribed the captain with a lot of wine. He made a slightly narrow guess. This is not something that can be solved by sending wine. Kurapika has a different view, to be able to survive and get out of an exam with extremely high difficulty and danger, and to continue to participate in the hunter exam. He made an accurate analysis and gave his own judgment. This man is definitely not an ordinary person. The reason why he can have such a good relationship with the captain, the examiner of the Hunter Association, who sends candidates to the exam and can chat so well is not just because of sending wine. Leorio also reacted quickly, mainly because the captain's optimistic and appreciative attitude was simply obvious. Although this is my second time, I still have to abide by the rules. Lon clapped his hands. My name is Lon, and I am participating in the hunter exam for the second time. As for the purpose of participating, I told the captain last year, and the reason is still the same this year. Last year, he said he was curious about the hunter exam process, so he wanted to see what kind of test is in the hunter exam. And this year, he also said he was not interested in taking the third test, which means that I won't be able to see you next year. The red-nosed captain understood and knew that Lon was going to get the hunter's license this year. As for whether he could do it, if even the person who beat the examiner couldn't get a hunter's license, then this exam would be too dark. The same reason as last year. Leorio pouted secretly. But he was not interested in caring about other people's reasons. I want to be a hunter because I am a survivor of the Kuta clan. Kurapika interrupted directly, causing Leorio's anger to soar again. Hey, I'm talking. I want to be a hunter, a blacklist hunter who makes a living by earning bounties. Kurapika ignored him again and said directly. Why? The red-nosed captain put away the wine and asked. For years ago, all my compatriots were killed. The criminals were the infamous band of diabolical thieves, the Phantom Troupe, and in order to catch them. You want to become a hunter because of this? The red-nosed captain expressed his understanding. The Phantom Troupe is full of criminals with Class A bounties. Even experienced hunters will not be able to defeat them. He kindly reminded him, you will only die in vain. I do not fear death. Kurapika's attitude was very firm. I fear only that my rage will fade over time. Hee, what a willful guy. Leorio couldn't help but sneer. You don't have to become a hunter to take revenge, right? This is the stupidest sentence in the world. There are many places that hunters can go, information that can be collected, and activities that can be carried out, Leorio. Why don't you call me Mr. Leorio? When Leorio was furious, the red-nosed captain intervened and asked, then so Mr. Leorio, what is your reason? Me. Being called by the captain, Leorio's mood became calm a little. I don't intend to tell you a false answer, let me tell you what's in my heart. Leorio began to show a lewd smile on his face, it's money. He acted extremely greedy. Becoming a hunter can make a lot of money. As long as you have money, you can buy anything. Big house, nice car, fine wine, even women. He. He stretched his hands upward like claws and fell into a beautiful fantasy. Gon blinked and looked at him. For some reason, he always felt. What is he hiding? At this time, Lan's voice sounded in his ear. Gon couldn't help but look back at Lon. Mr. Lon, you mean? Just call me Lon. Lon didn't care about this. This shouldn't be the main reason for him to participate in the hunter exam, although he looked at Leorio's appearance. This is also one of his purposes, it's true, but not all. Lon understood Leorio's true situation, but Kurapika, who had a preconceived notion because of his actions before, couldn't help but pour cold water on Leorio again. You can't buy humanity with money, Leorio. Leorio took a deep breath, the third time. Step out. He looked at Kurapika expressionlessly. I'll end the filthy blood of Kuta clan here and now. Kurapika's expression also changed. Take back what you said just now, Leorio. Mr. Leorio. Leorio emphasized his tone. Step out. I wish for it. After that, the two of them didn't care what others thought and walked out of the cabin one after another. Hey, I haven't finished talking yet. The red-nosed captain encountered such a thing for the first time and was a little confused. Let them go. Gon didn't think anything of it. If you want to know someone, you have to know what that person will dislike first. This is what Aunt Mito taught me, and it's my favorite saying. Gon talked about his life experience. In my opinion, they are angry because those are very important to them, so it's best not to stop them. Gon and I have the same opinion on this matter. Lon came over and patted Gon on the head. When facing people who don't respect themselves and make them angry, how should they face and deal with them? And how should they choose in this environment? Lon rubbed Gon's head and said with a smile, let them solve it themselves. This can also be considered as part of the exam. Mainly in his sight, as the two left, there was a glow that was faintly visible. Is that so? The red-nosed captain smacked his pipe and felt that it made sense. It seems that the candidates who registered this year are all troublesome guys. He put his hands behind his back and slowly left the cabin. What you said is also true, Lon. Gon scratched his cheek. It would be better if you didn't touch my head. Well, Gon, who is currently sunny and optimistic, is the most suitable to be teased. I'm also curious. Lon continued to rub Gon's head. What are you curious about? This feels really good. Gon thought about it seriously and then showed a harmless and cheerful smile. I don't know either. You don't know either. Chapter 122, Go to Hell, Bastard. Would you like to go and see it together? Lon suggested, go and see the duel between the two of them. Okay. Gon agreed happily. It would be great to get to know the companions who will take the exam together. Moreover, he and Leorio already knew each other before boarding the ship. In his heart, Leorio has long been a good person and companion. Boom. The waves were raging, and the heavy rain poured down on the deck of the passenger ship, which was riding the wind and waves on the sea. Leorio and Kurapika were not affected by the storm at all. There was only each other in their eyes. Take back what you said just now, and I can still forgive you, Leorio. You should take it back yourself, Kurapika, and I won't give in at all. Also, call me Mr. Leorio. The two chose to fight directly. Clang. The sword was unsheathed, and the dagger was unsealed, and the two jumped into each other almost at the same time and engaged in close combat. As soon as they fought, they realized that the other party was extraordinary. Good skills. You too. Leorio originally thought that Kurapika was just a sissy who knew how to dress up, and Kurapika also thought that Leorio was a thief who was smart and sneaky. But this time, the fight made them all know that the other party was not trash like the others. During the fight between the two, Gon also watched carefully from the side. Lon also watched the fighting skills of the two. On one side is the ethnic fighting style taught by the Kuta clan since childhood, and on the other side is the wild fighting system that Leorio has explored since childhood. It can be said that each has its own merits. However, with Lan's observation ability, if there is no accident, the two really have to fight to the end. The winner is very likely to be Kurapika. It's not that Leorio's fighting ability is too poor, but mainly in terms of the brain, he is not as good as Kurapika. If nothing unexpected happens, an accident will happen in the next second. A sailor who wanted to repair the main ship's railing accidentally slipped and was blown off the deck by the storm. Save me! He cried for help heartbreakingly, and Gon heard this cry and jumped out to catch him first. Gon. Leorio and Kurapika jumped out at the same time. Two people grabbed one of Gon's feet and successfully pulled Gon and the sailor who flew out back. Gon, why are you so reckless? Leorio asked with concern, even though he blamed him. It's really stupid. Kurapika agrees with this. If we didn't catch you, you would have become a corpse on the sea too. But. Gon put his hands behind his head with an optimistic smile on his face. Didn't you catch me? Hearing this, both of them lost their temper. Gon said innocently, Then what about your duel? Duel. Seems to be that. Leorio turns his face away, he no longer has the desire to continue fighting. Troupe is the same, and through the fight just now and the act of saving Gon, he also changes his view of Leorio. I apologize for what happened just now, Mr. Leorio. Don't be so polite. Leorio is also a little embarrassed. Call me Leorio, Troupe. I also want to apologize to you. I take back everything I said about the Kuta clan just now. The atmosphere at the scene was even more relaxed, and the storm in the sky gradually subsided. The dark clouds began to slowly dissipate, revealing the sun behind the cover. It seems that you won't be so lonely this year. The red-nosed captain, who watched the whole scene, also took a puff of his pipe and smiled at Lon next to him. Yes, they are all very good juniors. Lon nodded and then looked at the blind box that had been condensed, with a slight arc at the corner of his mouth. The condensed red blind box is also quite good. Get a rare level blind box, do you want to open it? Lon put away the blind box casually and then opened it immediately. Open successfully, get a copy of Chrome Digizoid, Source World, Digimon. Digimon stuff. It seems that the action plot between the two protagonists, Leorio and Troupe, also happens in Digimon. When fighting against Puppetmon, one of the four Dark Masters, Taichi Yagami and Yamato Ishida, fought, and their two Digimon were Greymon and Metal Garurumon. Chrome Digizoid is the metal used to make the armor worn by Greymon, and Metal Garurumon is wrapped in steel blue Chrome Digizoid armor that rebounds attacks. Chrome Digizoid is made of Huanglong ore and usually has extremely high hardness. Because of different production ratios, there are different colors of Chrome Digizoid, and the same performance is also very different. This supermetal can be integrated with organisms. Therefore, in addition to being used as materials for weapons and armor, it can also be used in parts for the transformation of mechanical Digimon. Such a material is also the most suitable for making equipment in Lan's hands. As for weapons, he has too many. The collector, gun, and the power pole are both considered artifacts among artifacts. I can use this alloy to make an equipment. Lon adjusted his black suit. This suit is nice to wear and looks good. But if he really fights with some powerful masters, the suit will be destroyed. If it can be used to enhance the flow and power of aura, it will be great. Lon has many ideas in this regard. And the ability to make equipment that is beneficial to the strength and the flow of aura. Well, when you are in doubt, find someone with connections. Lon took out his mobile phone, edited a text message, and sent it over. I found a very good alloy material here, please help me find someone to make a suitable suit. He sent his requirements at the same time. And almost in the next second, the phone received a reply. Go to hell, bastard. The text message was attached with a middle finger emoji. Gon is by my side now. Lon quickly replied, I can touch his head while replying to your message. This time, after sending it, the reply was even faster than the last time. You will definitely get the punishment that you deserve. Absolutely. Jing cursed and took on the task again. But Jing was really curious about what Lon said. So, after the duel between the two sides ended, the relationship between the three was officially formed. The red-nosed captain also held a pipe in his mouth and smiled, announcing that all the people had passed the preliminary test this time. Next, I will send you to Doll Harbor. Amid Gon's cheers and Leorio's relief, after the captain's words, the passenger ship accelerated on the calm sea. Soon, the outline of the island in the distance was seen. That is the next assessment location for the Hunter exam. Chapter 123, Get Lost. It was still the familiar harbor location. As the only 4 qualified people for this voyage, they disembarked one after another. Then, they saw the many applicants from other places gathered at the harbor. There are so many people. Leorio carried his briefcase in one hand and looked at the crowd in front of him, almost making a shocked expression. I guess their purpose is the same as ours. Ah, are they the applicants of the Hunter exam from all over the world? Looking at those guys who are dressed well and look like they're not easy to mess with, they know why they came here. Speaking of which, the location of the Hunter exam this time seems to be in Zaban City, so where is the bus to Zaban City? Leorio looked around. I think you should go with experienced people instead of searching by yourself. Troupe made a pertinent suggestion, if applicants who have successfully reached the official venue of the hunter exam in the past search again, the probability of success is very high. Experienced people successfully reached it in the past. Thinking of these two factors, Leorio turned his head subconsciously and happened to look behind him at the same time as Troupe. "Captain, thank you so much." Gon had a sunny smile on his face and said to the red-nosed captain solemnly, "Let me have a happy journey." "Really? You feel happy on such a journey, ha ha ha." He was able to feel happy on such a dangerous journey. They are really a father and son. Although we have successfully arrived at Dal Harbor, there is still a long way to go. "Well, I know." At the red-nosed captain's warning, Gon nodded seriously. "I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I also want to thank you for your care during the journey." Seeing this, Leorio was moved by the scene, and before leaving, he expressed his gratitude to the captain. "This is just my job." The red-nosed captain smiled and put the pipe in his mouth again. "Here, my work is over, and it's up to you what to do next. There will be other exams later. Although I think you can definitely pass it with your qualifications, it is better to listen to the advice of those who have experienced it." The red-nosed captain raised his pipe to Lon next to him. "The opinions of those who have experienced it are very valuable and pertinent." "That's not necessarily true." Lon followed with a joke. "The location and method of the hunter exam will change every year. I wonder if the quizzing lady and Fox's family are still on this island." "Don't worry, there are no major changes to the guides. Basically, the position remains unchanged. This is also to allow old applicants like you who participate again to save the process of re-examining qualifications in advance. Those guys are still living there safely." After saying a few words to Lon, the red-nosed captain said goodbye again. "In the future, they may not meet again. He, 3 excellent new guys. You don't know what kind of person you're traveling with." When the red-nosed captain boarded the ship, he looked back at the 4 people and laughed. "That will be fun, right? I hope you won't be scared when you arrive at the official venue, little guys. Take care, everyone." At the harbor, Gon waved his arms and said goodbye to the passenger ship, which was getting farther away until it disappeared at the end of the sea level. "So, where are we going next, Mr. Lon?" Troupe asked politely now. Regarding the person in front of them, the other party has experience in the hunter exam, which will definitely be very helpful for their next journey. I said, "Just call me Lon." Lon stretched out his hand and pointed at the lone pine tree at the top. "Do you see the lone pine tree on that mountain? Going over there is the shortcut to the official exam venue." "But..." Leorio repeatedly stared at the huge map erected at the harbor. The location of Zaban City shown on the map is in the opposite direction of the lone pine tree. And Zaban City should be a big city, not in this mountain jungle. Leorio hesitated, and there is also a bus to Zaban City marked on it. So should we go to the lone pine tree or take the bus to Zaban City? "Hello." Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. A guy with short yellow hair, a big nose, and half-closed eyes appeared behind everyone. He pointed in another direction. "The bus stop is over there." Leorio was very wary of the guy who suddenly appeared. "Who are you?" "My name is Matthew, and like you, I am an applicant for the hunter exam." He introduced himself with an uncomfortable smile on his face. "Please give me advice." He stretched out his hand to say hello, but only Gon shook hands with him. "My name is Gon." Leorio's eyes rolled. "Mr. Matthew, are you going by bus too?" "Sorry, I hate taking the bus, and I have already decided to go in the direction of the cedar tree on the top of the mountain." Matthew politely refused. "Then why don't you go with us?" Troupe was silent, but his eyes lit up. "What a coincidence." Matthew stretched out his tone a little exaggeratedly. "I'm looking for a travel companion. Why don't we go together, Gon?" Gon was about to nod in agreement. Then, someone next to him made a decision for him. "Get lost." Lon didn't say much, just calmly looked at the person who appeared in front of him. Such an impolite attitude made Matthew stunned. "What did you say?" He felt as if he didn't hear clearly. "I said, get lost." Lon repeated it calmly again. "Huh." Matthew's anger rose instantly. "You are a jerk." He immediately touched the handle of the knife behind his back, wanting to get the knife out. The result. Snap. A hand grasped his wrist. It seems that we don't welcome you here, Mr. Matthew. Leorio, who had never let down his guard, decisively took action and stopped him from drawing his knife. You. Matthew pulled hard a few times but found that he couldn't pull it out at all. Tisk. He stepped back suddenly, and Leorio saw this and let go in time, allowing the other party to jump to the side. Matthew, with half-closed eyes, first looked at Lon and then looked at Leorio. His face was extremely ugly. He secretly hated Lon and immediately walked away from here and ran towards the direction of the huge lone pine tree. Chapter 124, Why? Do you want to cheat? It seems that guy should not be a good person. As early as when Lon said the first word, get lost, Leorio was ready. After staying on the ship for such a long time, he had never seen Lon so rude to anyone. So, seeing Lan's attitude towards Matthew made Leorio aware. This guy must have a problem. But even that guy is heading towards the direction of the lone pine tree, which should be the right place. Troupe, who had been silent, also started to analyze again. Well, I also plan to follow Lan's words. Gon naturally has no other questions. Lon must have his reasons for saying so. Since you all said so. Leorio saw that the attitudes of the two were so firm, and coupled with Matthew's action, his thoughts were also shaken. Then let's go to the lone pine tree first. After making the decision, he exhaled, but why does this map show such a route? Leorio still couldn't forget this map. When I came here last year, the place marked on the map here was not Zaban City, but Ralpha City. Lon glanced at the map and couldn't help laughing, but I know Ralpha City is not in that direction. Ralpha City. Well, that's where I took the official exam last year. Troupe understood immediately. So, the direction of this map is wrong. Such a large map is wrong. Leorio was a little unbelievable, despite being so blatantly placed in the harbor. There is no Hunter Association logo on it. Gon also looked carefully at the sign on the map after hearing this. On Whale Island, the map has the logo of our Whale Island, but there seems to be nothing on it. At this point, it is already obvious. Isn't this a blatant deception? Leorio, who was relieved to know that he was almost deceived, was also quite unhappy. Why is there such a map here? I think it should be for screening applicants. Troupe thought, just like on the passenger ship, this is also a test for us. After all, except for applicants like us who take the Hunter exam, no one will go to Zaban City. Another test. Leorio's eyes twitched, and he had understood it in his heart. This test should be about not easily believing in all kinds of information, about learning to distinguish and find the right way out. However, he still refused to admit defeat and said stubbornly, really, they always come up with some strange exam. He seemed to have thought of something and looked at Lon puzzledly. Since Zaban City is a big city, why do we have to go to that lone pine tree? Maybe it's the guide the captain mentioned just now. Troupe was very smart to remember the key words just now. According to the literal meaning, it means that we should go to the huge lone pine tree and find the person who will lead us to the real venue. That's right. Lon praised Troupe's wit. Applicants must rely on the little information they get to find the location of the venue, which is also a test for applicants. Lon explained, in order to reduce the number of applicants, the Hunter Association has set up various traps along the way. The venue is different every year and is set in a place that is difficult to be discovered. Without the help of a guide, it is difficult for applicants to reach the venue. Applicants must first find a guide and have them confirm their qualification before they can reach the venue. Is that so? Gon nodded in understanding and immediately became full of energy. Then let's go. The group no longer had any objections and set foot on the journey. But what are the guides like? Walking on the road, Leorio had another crooked idea. He came close to Lon, looked around, and made sure there was no one else. Then, he whispered, can you tell me what kind of guys they are and what the test is about? Troupe also pricked up his ears when he heard this. Why? Do you want to cheat? Lon asked with interest. How can this be considered cheating? This is called collecting information in advance. Leorio found a reason and then cheered up, So if I tell you, what benefits can you give me? Lon rubbed 2 fingers. This is related to passing the Hunter exam, which is very important information. Leorio, well, he used to make others pay the price, now it's his turn. But I don't have much money on me. Leorio said, a little embarrassed. I support that. Gon raised his hand. Leorio didn't even have money to eat, so he went to steal the fish from the shop. Well, I can testify to this. Kurapika nodded in agreement. I saw it too. Leorio, thank you for explaining it so clearly. It doesn't matter if you don't have money now. Lon showed a meaningful smile. After you pass the hunter exam and get the hunter license, we can sit down and talk about this matter. Hunter license. No problem. Leorio agreed decisively. If he can really get the hunter's license, it will be a sure win, no matter what the price is. I accept it, too. Gon also raised his hand. Kurapika thought for a moment and felt that intelligence was more important. Especially what the captain said before leaving, that he should consult more experienced people. He always felt that this sentence seemed to have some deep meaning. Seeing that everyone agreed, Lon no longer concealed, on the road ahead, we will pass a small town. The examiner in the town is an old woman with only 2 teeth. She will ask us questions, and as long as you answer correctly, she will let you go. Leorio immediately asked impatiently, what kind of questions did she ask you last year? If your mother and father both fell into the water, and you can only save one. Lon said casually, 1, mother, 2, father, which one would you save? Leorio's face was full of black question marks. What kind of question is this? There is no correct answer to this kind of question. While Gon was still thinking, Kurapika asked, then how did you answer, Lon? You arrived at the official hunter exam venue last year, so you should have passed the test by answering the questions correctly, right? Right. Leorio, who was about to get angry, immediately reacted, what's the correct answer? I chose 1. Lon said truthfully. 1. Kurapika was stunned to think there might be other ways to answer such a question. Why? Because I don't like the number 2, so I chose 1. Lon said as a matter of course. So 1 is the correct answer? Leorio couldn't believe it. Of course. Not. Lon stretched out his tone a little, making Leorio hold back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Since it's wrong, it can't be 2, right? He muttered. It shouldn't be right either. Kurapika frowned and thought for a while, what did the examiner say? She let me pass. Leorio. Chapter 125, Good Seedlings. You were allowed to pass with the wrong answer. Leorio looked confused. He felt that he had more questions today than in the past year. Of course, except for the questions in the medical book. She said I passed but didn't mention that I was correct. Lon continued, so, I took a long detour to finally get to the place. The long detour. He always feels that it is not as simple as Lon said. Then, since 1 and 2 are not the correct answers. Leorio couldn't figure it out, are there any other answers? Maybe. Lon said casually, but even if the answer is wrong, we can still reach the destination normally. I took that wrong road last year, and now I am very familiar with it. Leorio choked but thought about it again, it does make sense. Even if the answer is wrong, they will not be eliminated, it will just take a more troublesome road. Anyway, with Lon here, they can reach their destination in the end. If they think about it this way, they will not lose out no matter what. Thinking of this, Leorio felt much more relaxed. Kurapika also thought about it for a while, and there was no problem, and then nodded gently. As for Gon, it still doesn't work, I can't think of the answer. Gon suddenly raised his head, distressed and unable to give an answer. Why are you still thinking about this? Leorio, who had calmed down, couldn't help but tease, no need to think about it anymore. Why? Anyway, we can all reach the final destination, so any answer is fine. Having said so, Leorio still bumped his fists, really, how could there be such a question? When we get to the official venue of the hunter exam, I must have a good chat with the person in charge. What is the significance of asking such a stupid question? Gon said seriously, but what if you really encounter a situation where you can only save one relative? Kurapika and Leorio were both startled at the same time and then they hid their smiles on their faces. This is indeed a very serious question. If she can ask such a question, then the old woman should know the answer, right? Gon seemed to have thought of something and knocked his fist lightly on his palm. When we get there, I'll ask her. Leorio and Karapaika. The faces of both of them became a little strange. It was the examiner who was supposed to ask the examinee questions, but Gon wanted to do the opposite. But if Gon asked this question with his personality, it might have a very good effect. Karapaika and Leorio looked at each other and nodded in tacit understanding. In this way, the four of them walked forward. Along the way, they saw a lot of footprints and messy traces on the road. According to Gon, there should be beasts like rhinoceros living nearby. And this is their territory. Maybe someone came here before them and was recognized as a territory invader by the rhinoceros. This made Karapaika and Leorio think of Matthew, who had just now wanted to talk to them at the harbor. It seems that someone is one step ahead of them, which is not a bad thing. Soon, in front of the four people, a dilapidated town that looked old and desolate appeared. Is this where the old examiner is? Leorio looked around. Well, this is called a two-heartbeat choice town. Lon looked around and shook his head. It's the same as last year, nothing has changed. In other words, is the old lady in front of us the examiner? Gon has good eyesight and sees the road ahead at a glance. The old lady with a cane was blocking the road with a group of short men wearing colorful hair, masks, and white robes. In front of them was Matthew, who had just run over. But looking at the wounds on his body and his heavy breathing, it was obvious that he had not had a smooth journey. If your mother and lover were both captured by the bad guys, and you can only save one. Mother, 2. Lover, which one would you choose to save? The quizzing lady still fulfilled her duties and asked such a question. Sure enough, it's just this kind of question that has no standard answer. The people who followed behind also heard the question. Even though he knew it would be like this in advance, Leorio couldn't help but complain. You have 5 seconds to choose an answer. 5, 4. I choose 1. Matthew took a deep breath and decisively chose 1. At the same time, he didn't forget to look at the people behind him with hatred. It was because these guys didn't team up with him, and he couldn't use them as stepping stones, which caused him to be chased by the rhino for so long. Why did you choose this answer? The quizzing lady asked without changing her expression. Of course, it's because there is only one mother, and you can find another lover. Matthew took a breath and said as a matter of course. As usual, the quizzing lady discussed this with her companions in the white robes behind her. Then, go ahead. A group of people blocking the road split up to the left and right side. Hee hee. Matthew showed a smug smile on his face and ran forward quickly. I'll set some traps for you guys. Watching Matthew's figure leaving and the people in front who surrounded the road again, the 4 people behind saw everything just now. So he also answered wrongly and went to the wrong road ahead. Leorio didn't have a bad temper this time but honestly asked the question. Well, the old lady just said to let him go and didn't say he was correct. Karapaika, who always pays attention to various details, also smiled. So, this is the same as what Lon said. Well, this old lady is also an examiner of the Hunter Association. Gon also saw the Hunter Association logo on the cane. Just when the few people confirmed this, the quizzing lady finally set her sights on the 4 of them. To be precise, it was on Lon. You are here again, Lon. A smile appeared on the quizzing lady's face. It has been a long time since I saw an applicant passing by me for the second time. Of course, I said last year that I would come again. Lon also smiled and greeted. I am not a person who breaks his promise. Really? The quizzing lady smiled happily. It was rare to meet a familiar junior who she admired. So this time, did you choose the right path? Of course, but... Lon pointed to the 3 people who were silently observing behind him. I came with them this time. Oh. Is there someone traveling with you this time? The quizzing lady looked at Karapaika and the other 2 with interest and then nodded slightly. It seems that they are indeed good seedlings. I just don't know if they can answer the questions correctly. Chapter 126, A Little Gift. She turned to Lon again. From their appearance, it seems they already know the rules and questions. Ah, I told them, by the way. Lon stood aside, but I didn't tell them the real answer. You can ask them again, Granny. Is this really okay? What if they get the answer wrong? Didn't I choose a wrong answer last year and still reach the final destination? Is that so? That's it. The quizzing lady understood what Lon meant. The three little guys are lucky to have met an old applicant like you. But. She glanced at Lon again, her remaining teeth pursed her lips. It could also be unfortunate. These words rose in her heart and quickly dissipated. The quizzing lady turned around and faced the trio. So, even if you already know the rules and questions, they still have to follow the procedures, and they still have to give me an answer. The quizzing lady's tone returned to calm. If your son and daughter were captured by bad guys, who would you choose to save? 1. Son. 2. Daughter, give me your answers. None of the three people answered. Even Leorio, the most irritable, chose to keep silent at this moment. Although he sneered at these questions, he wisely chose not to say much when Lon came forward. Whoever wants to answer these weird questions can answer them. Anyway, Leorio will not open his mouth. Troupe, who had just seen all of Matthew's performances, gradually understood something in his heart. The real answer to the questions in this test. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Seeing that the three people were silent, the corner of the quizzing lady's mouth slowly curled. Time is up. Hee, I don't know if you are really lucky or you really understand the correct answer. The quizzing lady chuckled and looked at the reactions and expressions of the three people. Gon seemed to be waiting for something, Troupe was calm, and Leorio revealed a muddy stupidity. Well, it seems that it is both. The quizzing lady Granny's mouth moved, and then she smiled at the few people. You all passed. Passed. Leorio, who had originally prepared to let Lon take them on a complicated road, now turned into a dotted eye. Sure enough. Troupe laughed. Silence is the correct answer. Silence. Yes, just like you said, how can there be any correct answer to such a question? Troupe stepped forward, because there is no correct answer, and the correct answer is not answering. Is that so? Leorio was still thinking about Troupe's words. The latter looked at Lon again. If it's just a question of this degree, I think, last year, Lon, you have no reason to answer wrong. He just picked an answer at random at that time. The quizzing lady smiled and said, last year, he had already found the right path. But he said that he would leave the right path for this year, so he just picked a wrong answer at random. Squeak. When the quizzing lady finished speaking, the group of people beside her also opened the gate on one side. Last year, you said you wanted to see the lush green scenery along the way and didn't go through here. Then this year. Of course, I have to choose the fastest route this year. Lon snapped his fingers, looked at the red blind box condensed next to the dark gate with a grin. Sure enough, in the quizzing lady's Q&A, there should still be a blind box. It turns out that Lon had found the right path last year. Gon immediately looked at Lon with admiration and then looked at the quizzing lady. Then, Granny, if the situation you asked really happens, what do you think you should do? Me. Seeing Gon's clear and serious eyes, the quizzing lady smiled. I am already an old woman, and these questions are meaningless to me. Is that so? Gon was a little disappointed. Seeing this, the quizzing lady changed the subject, but I can tell you an answer I heard last year. Last year's answer? Gon raised his head while Troupe and Leorio subconsciously looked at Lon. He said that if you encounter such cruelty and accidents, you must be prepared. The wrinkles on the face of the quizzing lady were covered with a smile. Make yourself stronger, strong enough to protect the people you care about. Become stronger. Troupe and Leorio were silent again. If I can be strong enough to protect my clan. Troupe clenched his palms tightly. If I had strong enough medical skills at that time or made so much money, Pietro would not have died. Leorio pushed the small round glass on his face. The word strong is very broad, but both of them can draw a deep understanding based on their own experiences. And, if anyone gives such a difficult question again, just solve the person who asked the question. The quizzing lady added this sentence. Solve the problem. Is that so? Gon scratched his head and said he didn't understand. But. Maybe when I become more stronger, I can find my father. Gon also has his own understanding of this answer. So far, this exciting two-choice quiz is officially over. Follow the road in this corridor and walk for about 2 hours to reach the top of the mountain. There are a couple of guides living there. If you pass, they will take you to the official venue of the hunter exam. The quizzing lady gave the last instructions and then smiled at Lon. Well, with Lon here, I believe you can still successfully reach Saban City. Thank you, Granny. Gon and Kurapika thanked the quizzing lady one after another. Lon stepped forward and took out a hat. We are leaving soon. We may never see each other again. This is a little gift from me. Please accept it. He smiled and handed the hat to the quizzing lady. Squeak. As the iron door of the corridor slowly closed, the place became quiet again. Will there be no chance to meet again in the future? The quizzing lady murmured and then stroked the hat that Lon gave her before leaving. Granny V May's magic hat was exactly what Lon got from the white blind box here last year. It was just right to leave it to the quizzing lady. At this time, in that passage, the four people walked on this empty, dark road. Lon also put away the red blind box. Sure enough, it was only by being with the protagonists that he could have such gains and get higher-level blind boxes. Chapter 127, Breaking Point. For example, when he came here alone last year, it was just a white blind box. But when he came back here a year later, it turned into a red blind box. This leap made Lon look even more forward to meeting the Fox family living under the huge lone pine tree. Get a rare level blind box. Do you want to open it? Opened successfully. Get breaking point. Source world, Ranma 1/2, Cologne. Breaking point. Finally, another practical skill. Lan's mouth raised a little arc. Because it's the quizzing lady, and there are so many children wearing large white robes around, so is it also an old lady's ability that is given. Granny Cologne, Shampoo's great-grandmother, the leader of the Chinese Amazons, and a strong martial artist. She admires the protagonist Ranma very much and regards him as Shampoo's fiancé, so she calls Ranma great-grandson-in-law, and then teaches him various martial arts. She is very skilled in martial arts and can compete with Hapasai. She has never lost in the original animation. What's more rare is that she was born in China and is the manager of a cat cafe. She has mastered various secret martial arts of the Chinese Amazon. She has a wide range of knowledge and knows a lot of fighting moves, as well as Chinese traditions and legends. Her interests are fighting, entertaining juniors, and joining in the fun. Therefore, Ranma, Rouge, and others often go to the cat cafe to ask Granny Cologne for advice when they encounter fighting or other related issues. It just so happens that Granny Cologne also likes to see one junior become an excellent martial artist. The quizzing lady also wants to see Junior become an excellent hunter. Both of them are old, and they have similarities. As for this move, breaking point. Is it a special skill that focuses on the finger? In the dark corridor, Lon raised his index finger, feeling that it contained a different kind of power. Breaking point, everything has fault lines, just use your finger to crush them. It is similar to Mystic Eyes of Death Perception and the atomic destruction in Saint Seiya. Everything is made of atoms, and as long as the atoms are crushed, everything can be destroyed. Breaking point is like this, accurately hitting the fault line can crush the object. Except for humans. Well, breaking point is not a special skill for the human body, so it has no effect on the human body. This move is actually equivalent to a kind of Nen ability. At the cost of not being able to affect the human body, it can crush any other objects. At the same time, this move can also be used to protect himself against various sudden dangers. Haven't we arrived yet? In the dark corridor, Leorio walked very tiredly. Why haven't we reached the exit yet? Didn't you say that it only takes 2 hours to walk? Now it has exceeded 2 hours. He couldn't help but look at Lon, who was walking in front. Did you spend so much time walking last time, Lon? I didn't walk. Lon didn't even turn his head. The last time I came out of the town, I was attacked by a magical beast. Magical beast? Is it the wrong road that Matthew took? Ah, yes, that magical beast looks pretty cute. Cute. That's right, it wanted to eat me, and after I beat it up, it was very friendly and willing to become my mount and take me to my destination. Well, as expected, the guy who can have a good relationship with the examiners of the hunter exam and has participated in a hunter exam is definitely not an ordinary person. Even a wild beast at the level of magical beast can be beaten up and subdued at will. Leorio was also convinced. The group walked and walked, successfully stepped out of the corridor, and then shuttled through the vast and dark jungle. After a period of time, they finally arrived in front of the huge lone pine tree at night. Finally, we are here. Coming to the cabin under the lone pine tree, Leorio was quite impressed by the difficulty of the journey. "Hey, is anyone there?" He immediately stepped forward and knocked on the door, but no one responded. No one. Leorio was a little confused. While trying to open the door, he asked, "Lon, when you came here last year, the couple here?" Whoosh! The moment the cabin door opened, a pair of scarlet eyes stared at them closely. Magical beast. Leorio's face suddenly changed, and Gon and Kurapika also hurried forward. But as they walked, they found something wrong. Because they found that the two beasts that looked like ferocious foxes were sitting at the table. Next to them was a man and a woman, who looked like a couple. No, it should be more like a son and a daughter. Kurapika looked at the tattoo on the woman's arm and guessed. "Hey, hello." The fox father held a teacup in one hand and raised the other hand while smiling and greeting everyone. "Hello." Leorio and Kurapika always felt a little out of place. On the contrary, Gon, who often mingled with animals in the forest, felt very friendly. "Hello, my name is Gon." He greeted them enthusiastically. "They are Kurapika, Leorio, and this one." "We know this one." The fox's mother laughed sharply. "Long time no see, Lon." "Yeah, I haven't seen you for a year." Lon smiled and responded, "Why, you don't plan to do the test this year, are you going to lie down? You brought the three of them directly here. Don't we understand what this means?" The fox father blinked his eyes. "If you still want us to test them, you should separate from them." "Is that so? I just want to take another look at the show you did last year. After all, such an interesting accident is rare." "Oh, my. I knew it." The corner of his mouth twitched, and he said solemnly in his heart, "It's because we know you want to see our show that we wisely didn't choose to continue doing it. If there is another guy like you who says we are having a family dispute, then I won't be able to keep my face." So, the Fox family changed the way of testing a long time ago. Especially after they saw Lon coming, they didn't plan to play around anymore. "So, the other three, are they the newcomers who came to participate in the exam this year?" The fox father looked at Gon and the other two and then nodded. "The guy who can be selected by Lon must be quite outstanding. But then again, I really didn't expect that a guy like you would actually choose to do it again." Chapter 128, Enhanced Spinach. The fox father seemed to be recalling what happened last year and couldn't help but sigh. "When I gave you the number plate, you said at that time that you just came to experience the hunter exam and would come again next year. I thought you were joking with me at the time, but I didn't expect it to be true." "Well, this is normal. Who made you do such a thing in the fourth round of the exam?" Speaking of this, not only the fox father but also the other foxes all cheered up. To be honest, we were really surprised when we heard the news. The fox mother pulled a chair over and laughed happily. "Who would have thought that you would do such a thing? As a result, the Hunter Association directly deprived you of the qualification for the hunter exam. What happened at that time? If it's convenient, why don't you sit down and talk to us? Do we not need to take the test now?" Leorio was a little confused about the situation in front of him. It seems so at the moment. Kurapika looked at Lon, who sat down and started chatting with the fox family without being polite, "But what I care more about now is what happened to Lon." Listen to what the fox family said. Gon's attention has long been attracted by those few words. Lon did some amazing things in the hunter exam and then was disqualified by the Hunter Association. If it was amazing, he should be rewarded, not punished by being disqualified. Leorio complained, "I think he violated the rules in the hunter exam. And it may be a big violation." Kurapika guessed even more. And the Hunter Association took the initiative to disqualify him from the exam, and even the Fox Guide could hear about it. It can be imagined that what Lon did was definitely not small. He is really not an ordinary person. Even though Lon behaved very normally along the way, they couldn't see anything. However, the careful and perceptive Kurapika still had a certain degree of vigilance towards this old applicant who had participated in the previous hunter exam. "Why, you don't know?" The fox daughter saw Gon and Kurapika's expressions and the question marks on their faces, which made her feel a little surprised. "Didn't you tell them on the way here?" The fox son also asked Lon. "Those are things of the past, let's not talk about them. Lon waved his hand. It seems that not only you didn't mention it, but the previous examiners didn't mention it either. The fox father laughed happily. Really, a group of guys who want to laugh at others. That. Gon always asks when he doesn't understand, did Lon do anything in the hunter exam last year? Leorio and Karapika also pricked up their ears. This. The fox father looked at them, then looked at Lon, and laughed again. Ha ha ha, wait until you arrive at the official venue of the hunter exam, and someone will tell you the answer. I think those guys will be surprised by your arrival. The Fox family couldn't help but think of something, and all of them showed funny expressions. And this made the trio even more confused. What kind of thing could Lon do to make these guides react like this? Okay, I won't talk about these past things. After Lon sat down and talked about the past with the Fox family for a while, he changed the subject. I still have to trouble you to take me there this year. Hee hee, we are also looking forward to it. The Fox father chuckled twice. We have already tested your qualification last year, but... He raised his head and looked at the three people standing there stupidly. They are three newcomers. According to the regulations, we still need to test their qualifications and talents. As soon as the business was mentioned, the three of them all looked stern again and began to focus on the test in front of them. According to our previous testing methods, we need to test your handling of special situations. The Fox father coughed twice, but since you came with Lon, it is enough to simply test your observation ability. Just tell me what you observed. Observed. The three people were thinking hard there. At the table, the Fox son came to Lon and asked quietly, Lon, do you still have the carrots from last year? I only had a few left, and I ate them all. Is that so? The Fox son was a little disappointed. We kept some of the carrots you gave us last year to plant, but the taste of the ones we planted has always been a little different from what you gave us. It would be nice if you still had these carrots. Well, there are no carrots, but I don't know if you will eat the other vegetables. Lon looked at the red blind box condensed in the room and then continued to raise his hand to collect the freshly baked blind box. Well, in this classic place, of course, there are blind boxes. Get a rare level blind box. Do you want to open it? Open successfully. Get enhanced spinach, source world, Popeye. Okay, last time, it was carrots, this time, it's directly spinach. And they are all from the cartoons. Popeye, the protagonist of the cartoon, can become extremely powerful as long as he eats spinach, making him comparable to Superman. But only once, and after destroying the enemy, he will return to his original state. If we make an analogy, it is like Shalnirk's ability, autopilot mode. The strength of one's own aura soars until the enemy in front of him is killed. The difference is that the Shalnirk's ability is uncontrollable and unconscious, but this enhanced spinach is subjectively controlled, and there are no sequelae afterward. It's just like taking drugs. Even taking drugs can't compare to this enhanced spinach with no side effects. Such a life-saving item with no side effects is worth a red blind box. After Lon put away the enhanced spinach, the trio also successfully passed the test of the Fox family. Karapika found the tattoo on the arm of the Fox daughter, which served as sight that she's not married, and concluded that the two were siblings and not a young couple. Gon successfully identified the Fox father and the Fox mother. He became the first applicant in 10 years to distinguish the two of them, and the two foxes were very happy. He also included Leorio, who had stared with his eyes wide open and could not observe any difference, into the category of qualified applicants. The exam site this time is in Zaban City. Let us take you there. After the four of them were gathered, the Fox family also stood up and prepared to take all four of them to the test site. Under the moonlight, 4 flying foxes, plus the applicants caught under their feet, soared in the sky. We are expected to arrive at Zaban City at dawn. You can take a rest during this period. The Fox father said, and couldn't help but make a joke. Of course, you can also look forward to the expressions and reactions of the applicants after arriving. Expressions and reactions. What is there to look forward to? Or. The other three looked at Lon again. So what did he do last year to make all the applicants have such extraordinary reactions? Chapter 129, Number 406. Mr. Fox's words made the three of them even more curious. But no matter what. Under the moonlight, Gon's eyes sparkled. We will soon arrive at the formal venue. Soon, he will get more blind boxes. Lon, who was taken by the fox father, had similar ideas. In this way, a group of 4 people were taken and flown to the location of Zaban City. They don't know how long it took, but as the first ray of morning light on the horizon sprinkled on the earth, a huge and magnificent city also appeared in front of everyone. Let me see, the location on the Zaban City is 2-5-10. The fox father, who turned into a human form, led a group of people to find the location of the hunter exam. Ah, found it. He stopped at a certain position. This building is the venue. Gon, Leorio, and Karapika all looked up. A luxurious building that could be called the ancient Roman Colosseum appeared in front of them. So tall, so impressive. The building is so luxurious, no wonder it can be the venue for the hunter exam. It's amazing. Is this the gathering place for masters from all over the world who want to become hunters? The 3 people were very emotional there, their eyes flickered, and their emotions were ignited. However, what are you looking at? Lon passed by them, patted their shoulders one by one, and touched Gon's head. The hunter exam will not appear in such a conspicuous place. Huh. The 3 people turned their heads in astonishment and saw that the fox father had walked to the door of a steak restaurant. Ah, yes, the entrance is here. The fox father pointed at the door. The shabby decoration almost ruins the 3 people's mood. Welcome. When the few people walked into the steakhouse, the waiter and the chef both greeted them politely. Don't joke, tour guide. Leorio still couldn't accept it. How could it be possible here? Boss, the steak. Combo for 4. How would you like them? Grill over low flame until cooked. Got it. Let yourself into the back room. After the strange code, the group came to an empty private room under the reception of the maid. Gon and Leorio stabilized their moods and looked at everything around them while the Lon was complaining to the fox father, who decided this year's code. It's not rigorous at all. If a customer happens to order such a set meal, will he be sent here as well? However, when he learned that it was a volleyball player who casually said the code while eating steak and ordering food, Lon understood everything. Given Mr. Netero's character, it was good that he didn't say anything useless. Besides, the place he chose was not bad. Lon looked at the blue blind box that appeared in the box, and his mood suddenly became better. Even the steakhouse that's related to hunter exam can produce a blind box. Get an uncommon blind box. Do you want to open it? Open. Open successfully, and get the cooking skills of a top chef. Source World, Chuka Ichiban. Wow, this is in a steak restaurant, so cooking skills are given. Well, it's better than nothing. What's more, it's the skills of the top chefs in Chuka Ichiban. Not to mention, it's also a good ability. And it just happened that the second round of exams required cooking skills, and it was just right. This is the hunter exam, and anything unexpected may happen next. In the private room, the fox father introduced the basic situation and then looked at Lon. Just like the one next to you, he basically passed the hunter exam last year, and this year, he came again. Only 1 out of 10,000 applicants make it this far. From this point of view, you are already amazing as a newcomer. If it is you, I will be happy to continue leading the way for you next year, just like I agreed with Lon last year. As he said that, the fox father took out 4 number plates and handed them to the 4 of them. Well, it's still the familiar 3 numbers. Lon looked at tag number 406 in his hand and put it away with a smile. Try hard, newcomers. The fox father waved his hand. I don't know if any other examiner has said this to you before. Finally, he looked at Lon and said with a smile, sometimes, experienced people can still provide unexpected help. After that, he wanted to leave. Mr. Fox. Then, he was stopped by Gon, who offered him a hand. Thank you. The fox father looked at him and smiled even more happily. Ah, you're welcome. Snap. He held Gon's hand together. See you again if we are lucky. The private room of the steak restaurant slowly sank like an elevator descending downwards. Although his reminder was well-intentioned, isn't it very rude to say that? It seems that we will definitely fail this year. Leorio muttered as he watched the surrounding walls rise and fall. Only 1 pass in the past 3 years. Karapika said lightly, this is the passing rate of newcomers. Most of the newcomers can't stand the harsh test and give up halfway. And some people are injured and can't take the exam anymore. Is that so? Gon blinked twice and then looked at Lon. So, Lon, how was your hunter exam last year? Me. I didn't encounter the situations that Kurapika said. Lon thought about it and said it truthfully. Well, he did not suffer any injuries in this regard, nor did he suffer any targeting or danger from the hunter exam. But it seems that he brought all these to others. Huh. Gon was curious. So, Lon, why were you disqualified during the hunter exam? Kurapika and Leorio immediately looked over. Previously, in the wooden house under the lone pine tree, the Fox family did not explain it clearly. Their curiosity was ignited at that time. They also wanted to know what Lon, an old applicant who had participated in a hunter exam, had experienced. Nothing bad. Lon didn't think there was anything wrong, it was mainly because I violated a rule during the hunter exam last year. Broken the rule. Ah, it's not a serious matter. Chapter 130, I just beat up the examiner. Facing Gon's curious and pure eyes, Lan's mouth corners curved slightly. I just beat up the examiner, who I was not happy with. Gon. Kurapika. What? I thought it was some other murderous thing. Leorio couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It turns out that he just beat up the examiner. Examiner. Leorio felt that the meaning was getting more while repeating the word, and then his eyes gradually widened. Hey 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 hey. He suddenly shouted, looked at Lon in disbelief, and said, you beat up an examiner. Those sentences had a huge impact on him, and even his cognition was greatly shocked, so he repeated the question again. Well, he is a very annoying guy. Lon spread his hands slightly, his tone was a little helpless and indifferent. I have always been a gentle and easygoing person, and I like to make money in harmony. But there is no way, others are deliberately looking for trouble, and they are pushing their noses and faces, so I have to be equally rude. Leorio and Kurapika, your words are as simple as a street thug provoking a street fight. That's the examiner of the hunter exam. Leorio swallowed hard, but you beat him up. Kurapika echoed, every hunter exam is conducted by professional hunters in the Hunter Association, and their level is also through this difficult hunter exam. So what? Lon asked back calmly, they are also human beings. If they are beaten, they will feel pain, and if they are killed, they will die. Even if they are a professional hunter who has passed the hunter exam. That's right. Leorio opened his mouth and wanted to say something. But he still felt that this kind of thing was beyond his cognition. But then again. He thought of something, you have done such a thing. Will the Hunter Association allow you to continue to participate in the hunter exam? Didn't I have been given the punishment of deprivation of qualification at that time? Lon said, feeling that the elevator's speed began to slow down gradually. The examiner of the hunter exam will be replaced every year, and the examiner himself determines the content of the exam. He laughed, as long as the examiner says they are qualified, then even the devil can be allowed to pass. So, if I pass the hunter exam this time and am selected as an examiner next year. Lon sighed, then, at that time, whoever I want to pass will pass. Leorio himself didn't know how many times he had been speechless. Hey, even you, Lon, still had to take the hunter exam after you beat the examiner. Gon's focus was on another direction, then why are there so many people who want to become hunters? Kurapika and Leorio turned their heads at the same time. You really don't know anything, but you just came to take the exam. I don't know. Seeing the serious eyes of the two people looking at him at the same time, Gon subconsciously took a step back. Then listen carefully, the job of a hunter is the world's highest paid / greatest profession. Leorio and Kurapika said it in unison. Then they looked at each other again. Pretending to be noble / money worshipper. The disdain in their eyes was clearly visible. Gon, listen carefully. Only formal hunters have hunter licenses, which allow you to enter and exit most countries freely and use a lot of public facilities for free. Leorio fired at full power. If you become a ruin hunter for the tycoons, you can get a lot of money and live comfortably. No, Gon. Maintaining the order of humans and nature is the official job of the hunter. Kurapika refuted sternly, arresting wanted criminals and illegal hunters, protecting precious ruins and rare animals and plants, is the job of hunters. All of these require a strong will, healthy body, and mind. Speaking of this, Kurapika glanced at Leorio again, and the meaning behind his words couldn't be clearer. Gone, what kind of hunter you wanted to be? It was as if parents with two different educational philosophies were instilling the way they thought was right in their child. This. A drop of sweat flowed down Gon's cheek. I don't know which one. Suddenly, he subconsciously glanced at Lon, who was watching the show. What about you, Lon? He seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw and quickly changed the subject. What kind of professional hunter do you want to be? Kurapika and Leorio also stopped arguing. Then they all looked over, wanting to hear Lan's thoughts and opinions. It doesn't matter to me. I don't lack money at the moment, and I'm not too interested in ruins, so I'm not interested in either of these two professions. Lon said his thoughts truthfully, and I think Leorio and Kurapika's ideas don't conflict with each other. In this world, more than half of the top 100 richest people are professional hunters. As far as I know, some hunters have wealth and power that exceeds that of the president of a country. Look, Gon, am I right? Leorio jumped out immediately, beaming with joy and showing how correct his opinion was. Kurapika frowned at the side. But that hunter didn't seek pleasure but did his job as a hunter. Lon continued leisurely. He built a large number of facilities and became famous for excavating and repairing ruins. He is famous all over the world and has become an idol for many ruins hunters. He also used his money to renovate the ruins and built facilities in and around them to facilitate people's visits. He also protected rare species and developed a breeding method for some rare animals to avoid the possibility of extinction. His creation is regarded as a benchmark by later generations. Kurapika was moved and nodded repeatedly. Yes, this is a real hunter. Lan's words are completely in line with his impression of a glorious and majestic hunter. To put it bluntly, isn't it because you need so much money and power to do these things? Leorio was not to be outdone and said the prerequisite, without money, how can you renovate the ruins? As he said that, he muttered softly, anyway, I won't use my own money to do these things. Then Lon. Even Gon's eyes were particularly bright and flashing. Who is that hunter? He's. Dang. Lon, who was still thinking about whether to talk about some of Jing Freaks' deeds again, suddenly felt the elevator stop. It seems that we have arrived. The door of the private elevator slowly opened, and several people immediately focused their attention there. After wearing the number plate, Gon and the others all walked out at the moment the elevator door was completely opened. Is this the real venue for the hunter exam? The atmosphere is completely different from before. Everyone is a master, and they are completely different from the applicants and even the examiners I have met so far. Leorio swallowed his saliva, and Kurapika's face became more serious and cautious. Even Gon subconsciously looked around the surrounding environment.